Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for being with us as we kick off a brand new week with the Mandela Effect. Sandy Diva and Jeff Zanzibar are here, and we're going to get into that momentarily. But first, before we get started, big thank you and much love from all of us at Spaced Out Radio for all of our veterans out there. It's Veterans Day, Remembrance Day here in Canada. And just know that we love you. We thank you for your sacrifices and everything that you have done to keep us safe and sound. So a lot of love coming from us to all of you veterans out there. Thank you very much for what you have done and accomplished. We're going to get right to it here. We're going to get right to the audience because you guys are the most important part of this show. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Jackie McCarran with the silver. In studio, a nice bronze medal tonight. Little Cam over on YouTube, you know, he did 348 push-ups in a minute and a half. Yeah, slacking a little bit, but either way, his arms are jacked up for tonight. Frankie B, how you doing? Richard Minnick, good to see you. Tim Mothman and his goatee, two separate entities. Our attorney at large. Michael Morris is here. Michael Morris will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Karen in the Woo Train, how you doing? Look at Jackie. How do we know she's new? Who's Dave? Just puts it in the chat room. Who's Dave? Just a kick to my teeth right there. Hi, Jackie. I'm Dave. Salute. How are you? Welcome to SOR Chat. Don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell. We're here 7 days a week. Brown Dwarf, how you doing? T-Bone, my man, what's happening? And, oh, Dave doesn't exist. That's the second one. Oh, my. Richard Minnick, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. Thank you very much for the love. And who's next on our list? Lee the Bee, how you doing? Nice to see you. And let's see here, scrolling on down. And we got more Richard, more Jackie, more Richard, more Jackie, more Richard, more Jackie, more Richard, more Jackie. Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show. You know why? We always want to go into a show nice and smooth. We don't want any rigidness whatsoever as we continue on with this show tonight. Thank you, Mel, for the lube. Les Paul Holland is here strumming away on his guitar collection. How you doing? And who's next on our list? Cool Arrow is returned. Cool Arrow will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. S. Vermette, good to see you. Little Timmy James, what's happening? Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And who is next here? Millennium, my man, good to see you. So we continue on with roll call. There's Nina Williams, Road Flare. Good to have you both here. And who's next? Me Woykin. Good to see you. And who is up next? Scrolling on down. Operation Shutdown. Mike Bothwell, Kimberly Burgess, Yennefer with a soft J. Good to see you all. Hi, Noble Patrick. And a double shot right off the bat by Richard Minnick on the Super Chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Thank you very much. Sandy Diva, Mandela Effects. Good to see you in the chat room. Thomas Rock. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you, Human Carl, for your service. We love you around here. Pam Harris, Laura Lobbs, Melissa Nicole, looking lovely tonight. So we continue on with our roll call. Stephen Finnegan, good morning to you. Wayne, good to see you, Wayne. Number 26 in your program, starting at left wing tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into the Mandela Effect. Sandy Diva and Jeff Zanzibar are here. We're going to break it all down for you as we are in roll call. Al Garay over on Twitch literally did 3 hours of jumping jacks today, only taking a water break at the 2.5 hour mark. Oh, must be dehydrated. Scrolling on down. Let's see who's next on our list. F.U. Zeddy. What's happening, bud? And let's see here. Cat's Tongue. Stephen Finnegan. And I think I said Stephen Finnegan already. But throw those horns up, everybody. You know why? It's time to rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out the Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of fun and imagination and potentially a little conspiracy tonight. Sandy Diva, Jeff Zanzibar will be here momentarily as we will get into the Mandela Effect. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller has a brand new creepy story for you. Follow that up. Tim James will be here because it's going to be a very, very interesting night before the UFO hearings on the UFO report. Oh, yeah. We're going to get all into that. Be prepared for nothing, people. Absolutely nothing. Nothing, I tell you. But we'll find out more about that later on. Let's get right into it here, my friends, because we are ready for a great night. There's one subject. As much as I love UFOs, as much as I love paranormal and cryptid talk, one of the topics I love discussing is the Mandela Effect. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy about this, especially with people who don't believe in it. Why do they not believe in it? Because they think people misremember. And when you hear something a little bit more like Luke, I am your father, which never really happened in the Star Wars movies, that is what's considered a Mandela Effect, because we all remember that. Who remembers the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstain Bears? Which one was it? That's part of the Mandela Effect, because most people remember the other way compared to the new way. Are we getting it wrong? Are we not? Well, tonight we have Sandy Diva as well as Jeff Zanzibar, and together they have a YouTube channel called Mandela Effects After Dark. They look at all of these strange anomalies. They check it out. They wonder what's going on, because many people are claiming that their timeline has changed. Have we changed timelines? Have we flipped dimensions? Have we gone through portals with the aliens who've sucked our planet out and changed our history? Let's find out. Sandy, Diva, Jeff, welcome both to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are
Great.
you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dave? Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks for having us.
I love this topic. You know, I would say the geek side of me is really into the Mandela effect. And I can say this because I actually have a Mandela effect in my radio studio. And I've said this on the air before, but I have a 1930s or 40s Ford key. Now, the Ford logo is considered a Mandela effect. I'm not sure, Jeff or Sandy, if you actually know that one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm highly affected by that one. Absolutely.
Same here.
Well, so to explain this one, the Ford logo, the vehicle Ford, okay, not Harrison Ford, not Gerald Ford, okay, not Ford Field in Detroit where the Lions play, but the blue oval logo of the Ford. If you spell it out, it's Ford. And on the F, the bottom bar on the F has a little curly Q on it, like the Dairy Queen ice cream. Little curly Q.
It does.
Well, one of the Mandela effects, and I have the key here to prove it, shows that Ford, which claims they've always had the curly Q on the logo, did not have the curly Q on the logo.
Dave, can I ask you a question about that key?
Yes.
Does the R look like an X?
You would ask a guy who's can't see short sight. Yeah, you're that person, aren't you?
Well, it's because that's another part of the logo that isn't right. The R looks like an X, and I remember it looking like a cursive R. It's almost like a line, and then it's almost like they printed the R. So do you have the cursive R or a printed R?
We have I think it's the printed R.
Mm-hmm. But yes, the curly Q is the biggest Mandela effect with it, 100%. And I wish we could see it. That's awesome that you actually have physical residue of that.
I love that word residue. I do. I'm still going to get a T-shirt in the Spaced Out Radio store that just says residue on it. Love that. Well, before we get too deep into this subject, Sandy, let's learn about you because you got into this topic about 7-8 years ago. What led you here? What got you to this point that this was something you had to pay attention to?
Okay. So believe it or not, the very first video I saw on the Mandela Effect was by Shane Dawson, not a YouTuber that, well, I guess I guess he does paranormal stuff, but I was upset, like physically upset when I saw JCPenney and Berenstein Bears, because it was always Berenstein for me. I'd never heard Berenstain in my life. And if JCPenney had the E in it, I would have pronounced it JCPenney. I wouldn't have pronounced it penny. It was a penny, like how we spell penny. So I was really upset by it. It was like your whole world turned upside down. That's not right. But I moved on with my life, and I found myself in a hospital bed, and they were wanting to charge like $80 a day for the television. So I just went on YouTube and I started following all of these YouTubers who focused on the Mandela Effect. I decided to look into it, and I did resist it at first, but it was more that I didn't understand, because the Mandela Effect is strange in the sense that there's rules, and the rules are not everyone is affected by every Mandela Effect. So what is a very strong Mandela Effect for someone, you may not be affected by. You may have the current memory. It's possible that the Mandela Effect happened before you knew of the thing, or you were in a timeline where it was always that way. But it's possible that you're not affected by it and someone else is. So it's hard to say to someone, well, that's not a Mandela, because they're claiming very strong for them that it is. An example, Jeff and I were talking about it earlier, is Jiffy peanut butter. I'm not affected by that one, and neither is Jeff. For me, it was always choosy moms, choose Jif. It was always Jif. But there are so many people that remember Jiffy so strongly, and there is so much residue out there for Jiffy. I'm talking about like the newspapers where they'd have the spread of things on sale at the grocery store, and you'd see Jiffy peanut butter. There's so much residue that it makes you say, well, it's very possible that for these people it was Jiffy in a different timeline than me. And there's also the other rule I would say is newer. In the beginning, it was, as you said, was it Berenstein or Berenstain? Well, it seems like more and more, there's now more than two options. And it's not just like, one or two people saying, oh, I remember it this way. It's just as many people saying they remember it a third way. And two examples I have of that are Berenstain, and Bernstein. Some people remember Bern, no Beren. And then the other one is Snow White. That was the first Mandela effect I covered. That I found that there were three options. For me, her puff sleeves matched her skirt. They were yellow. Her dress was yellow puff sleeves with the blue bodice and then the yellow skirt. And now it's a blue, the sleeves are the puff sleeves are a blue color that is not the same color as the blue bodice, so it clashes with the yellow skirt. And some people remember white puff sleeves. So when I presented it, I showed all three colors, and less people remembered it like I did, but almost just as many, I would say even more people remembered the white over the blue. So it seems like more and more sometimes there's still two options, but more and more there's at least three options. Sometimes there's 4 and 5, which makes it much more difficult to prove and makes it easier for people to say, oh, you're just misremembering. And it's definitely not that for me.
Jeff, how did you begin on this rabbit hole of the Mandela effect?
So, what I didn't realize until...
Oh, hold on one second. I hit a button there. There you go. I'm hitting buttons all over the place, Jeff. I apologize for cutting you off.
That's all right. So what I didn't realize until a little later on was I've been experiencing it for my whole life, but I didn't know there was a name for it. And there wasn't a name for it until later on anyway. But the way I came into it was on Facebook. There was a post about a TV show I used to watch, and in the comments, somebody said, I'm having a Mandela Effect moment. And I got curious. I'm like, what is a Mandela Effect moment? So I looked it up, and I found they have the list of top 40 or top 50 Mandela effects, and I was looking through it, and I couldn't believe how many things that I thought were one way were actually another, like Berenstein Bears and Curious George not having a tail, Monopoly Man with no monocle, and I was intrigued by it. But I also thought maybe it was an internet thing and they were lying. I didn't really look into it for another couple of weeks. A couple weeks later, I was looking up The End of the World 2012. I was trying to find a special that I had seen. And that took me down the rabbit hole of the Mandela effect because it equated the two things, the end of the world in 2012 and the Mandela effect, meaning different universes, different timelines, what happened in 2012 that might have caused the Mandela effect. So that's when I went down that rabbit hole and I started finding more and more things that I remembered one way that were actually another. And then I started watching, I found all these YouTube channels that were talking about it, and I started watching it. And that's when I found Brian MacFarlane had a channel. I found his channel. Sandy was on it. And I was watching it for quite a few months. And then I finally asked if I could be on the show, and they let me on the show, and I've been doing this ever since.
What was the turning point for you, Jeff, where when you look back on it years in advance saying that you felt it was always happening? What was that turning point for you that there actually was something to this?
So a lot of the ones that I found early on were things that I had seen and thought to myself, wait a minute, this wasn't that way. And I was always trying to figure out why that was the case. So a few examples are Charles M. Schultz, the creator of Peanuts. In 2014, so now I didn't get into the Mandela Effect until 2020. So in 2014, though, I found out that Charles M. Schultz didn't have a T in his name. But I remember the T so clearly. I was looking up something about Peanuts and I saw his name spelled what I thought was wrong. And I couldn't believe it. And I kept on trying to find proof, of the way I remembered it. Couldn't find it. So that was one example. Chick-fil-A is another one. I had noticed Chick-fil-A wasn't spelled the way I remembered it. Back in actually it was 2006, actually, with that one. 2006, I saw it spelled C-H-I-C-K, and I'm like, well, that's not right. It used to be C-H-I-C. I used to pronounce it Cheek-fil-A as a joke. And then I found out that it had never been that way. But again, what was I going to do? There was nothing that I could prove, so I just moved on. Febreze was another one. I remembered two E's in Febreze, and then I noticed.
I remember Louise and Febreze. 100%, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was one. I noticed that back in 2001. So, and even in the 80s. Now, this is a weird one that only a few people share this one with me. But in the 80s, Hulk Hogan had two last names that they used. I know his real name's Terry Bollea, but they used to call him Hulk Hogan and Hulk Hulgan, Hulgan. And I remembered that, but then I stopped seeing it. Like I saw it in 85, and in 88, I stopped seeing his name being spelled those two different ways, and it was just Hogan from there on. And I actually found residue of Hogan a few years back. So that was actually the first one that I experienced way back in the 80s. But not a lot of people share that memory with me, but there are a few because I did find some eBay and some Amazon listings of wrestling toys, and it said Hulk Hogan, Hulgan on it. So I was kind of relieved to find out it wasn't just me who remembered that. So there's just been all these little things popping up throughout my life that I thought I remembered one way and they're actually another. Like the song "Sweet Dreams Are Made of This." I remembered "Sweet Dreams Are Made of These."
I remember that too.
Yeah, and a lot of people remember that, and I noticed that change in 2000. So before the Mandela Effect term was even coined, I was noticing all these things. And I was relieved to find out in 2020 when I went down this rabbit hole that there was a name for what I was going through for a really long time.
For people who may be listening to this in Radioland for the first time, Sandy, if you don't mind hopping on in here, give us an explanation of what the Mandela Effect is and how it began for most people.
Okay, so the Mandela Effect, I do not believe is misremembering. Let's get that out there right now. Basically, a lot of people remember something, whether it be a song, a place, a cartoon, a word. It can be anything, a Bible verse, anything. They remember it differently than it is now. And a lot of people remember it the same way. I don't really like the name the Mandela Effect because I don't know. I haven't met many people affected by the original Mandela effect, which is people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison. I do remember him getting out of prison, becoming president. Is it president of South Africa?
Yes.
Part of my, okay, just making sure. And so I do remember that. And I could think of, I think the McMahon effect would be a better name for it, because I think more people are affected by Ed McMahon not being ever working for Publishers Clearinghouse. But that's another example. A lot of people remember Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse, and he's only ever worked for American Family Publishers now, which many don't even remember existing. I had never heard of American Family Publishers until the Mandela Effect. So that's basically what it is. People remembering history, anything involved in history, different than the way it is today. And most people learn about it through YouTube, either through a video or a live stream. I feel like that's how most people learn about it, because it's not really talked about in mainstream media. And if it is talked about in mainstream media, they always bring up that's probably misremembering, and they bring a psychologist on the panel who says that we have such faulty memories that, I can recite to you all the phone numbers of my friends in grade school, including my own home phone numbers that we had, my grandparents' phone numbers. I could tell you birthdays of friends. You remember so many things, but the song that you sang 1,000 times, the lyrics change, and that's misremembering. I don't buy it. I don't believe our memories are as faulty as they say they are. And I don't, it just doesn't sit with me, because I know when I say something is definitely a Mandela effect, I know for a fact that it was different. Like, for example, you brought up Berenstein. It was Berenstein Bears. And it just sounds completely wrong and looks completely wrong. And that's usually an indication that something is a Mandela effect for you. When you look at it, you can't believe what you're looking at. And like I said, I think it's just mainly YouTube. I don't, except there is one exception. There was a movie. And the movie, in my opinion, was made too Hollywood, if you understand what I'm saying. Like they threw in like 2 or 3 Mandela effects, like a Curious George with a tail and without a tail, and they focused on simulation theory, which is one of the theories I do not buy into, and that's about it. I think that's pretty much it with mainstream media. Jeff, can you think of anything?
Well, I actually have a question for Jeff that's going to add to this. Jeff,
Okay.
if you don't mind us, we got about 90 seconds before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Mm-hmm. When did this really start occurring? Many people believe it was 2012, when the Mayan calendar was going to end and the world was going to come to an end. And obviously it didn't, at least on our timeline, it didn't. But when did you start noticing it?
Well, like I said before, I started noticing it in the 80s before it had a name. And I believe it's always been going on. But I also happen to know this for a fact, that different people see the same Mandela effects at different times. Like something doesn't change for them until they're made aware of it. For example, Berenstein Bears was Berenstein Bears 100% for me up until 2020. Because me and my fiance were watching old Saturday morning cartoons on YouTube in 2019, and Berenstein Bears was one of them. And it still had the E. It wasn't until I found out about the Mandela effect that it had a name that I saw the A, that I saw it was Berenstain. So once I was made aware of it, it had changed for me. So I think it's always been going on. And I think that it changes for different people at different times. There are a lot of intricacies to this that a lot of people don't know about.
Jeff, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Jeff Zanzibar, Sandy Diva. We're looking into the Mandela effect. We're going to get into some deep examples of timelines, products, and memories changing right after this. All right, guys, we're clear. You can mic up again. I noticed that we have a lot of first-time listeners here tonight when we get into a topic like this. Thank you so much for tuning us in. And Brian Staveley, Mr. Residue, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. But what I want to remind people who may not know or may be tuning us in for the first time, we are actually a live radio show. So we actually have to take commercial breaks at the bottom and top of the hour. The good news for you guys is you get to hear the behind the scenes of everything in the conversation. The radio audience doesn't, but you guys do. So if you're wondering, what the heck is this all about? Why are they taking a break here? Well, that's why. So just wanted to let you guys know.
And Dave, can I talk for a second?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
I left you a message in the private chat. That is also a Mandela effect. You said the Mayan calendar. It's Maya now.
Yes.
The Maya people and the Maya calendar, not Mayan. Which is a really big one for me because I grew up in New Jersey, and a lot of people in New Jersey say mine as Mayan, and it used to be like a joke. Oh, you're Mayan? Like it was just like a little stupid joke. And I just wanted to point it out because you said it. You said Mayan calendar, but it's always been Maya.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, well, I think Ceiling Fan Man recently found that one.
I think two of my favorite ones, and we'll get into this in a little bit because I don't want to give too much up on the show. Two of my favorite ones are Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember Cuba being just a real tiny, tiny place.
I agree.
And it's a massive island.
Yep.
Massive island. And the other one is, oh God, now I can't remember. Oh, kidneys. Kidneys on the body.
That's a big one.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's different now. I have a short on that. You mean the kidneys being higher up, correct?
Yeah. So, like, I'm looking at Tim here, who's my UFO guy, who's learning about this for the first time. So, Tim, where's your kidney? Yeah. Why in boxing do they say no kidney punches? Because your kidneys are exposed. Your kidneys are above your rib cage, or are protected by your rib cage now. But
So,
what have we been taught? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Sandy.
it's okay. There are two other questions I need to ask you about the kidneys. Number one, were they the same height, or was one higher than the other? And number two, were they the same size, or is one larger than the other?
That I have no clue. I work in journalism, not science there, Sandy. Shame on you. Shame
But
on
you
you.
have to understand, when we cover these, we have to find the residue of the kidneys being below the rib cage, you know? And
Yes.
the kidneys were always the same size. They were always the same height, right next to each other. And now one is significantly higher and significantly larger than the other one, and we don't remember that as well.
No. Got me there.
But yeah, we become experts in a lot of things when we have to find residue.
Oh, just keep saying residue. I just love that word. Remind me to make a residue T-shirt in honor of Brian Staveley.
And I would make one in honor of Teresa Lynch. She's known. She has a Facebook group, Mandela Reality Residue Hunters, and she has been given the title Residue Queen.
Oh,
so
very nice.
I could do like the word residue with a crown on top for her.
Who coined that term?
Residue?
The first time I ever heard it was from Brian Staveley.
Oh no, years. I don't know. Maybe Brian. I do know that personally, myself, I first heard it from Moneybag 73. But that was years ago.
Nice. All right, we got about 30 seconds here.
Okay.
And where are we here? Teresa Lynch, how are you? Welcome to SOR Chat. Big thank you tonight to Richard with a hat trick, Debaruni, T-Bone, Kira, Sag, Paramarv with the super chats tonight. Appreciate the love. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can buy our stuff and be proud to wear it in public. Here we go, everyone. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. What do you know about the Mandela Effect? My name is Dave Scott. Our guests tonight are Sandy Diva and Jeff Zanzibar. We'll get to them momentarily, but first want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. What is the Mandela Effect? Maybe you misremember. Maybe things have changed. Talking about it tonight are our good friends Sandy Diva, Jeff Zanzibar. We're having a blast. They host a YouTube channel called Mandela Effects After Dark. Sounds spooky. Sounds spooky, but I'm liking it. Sandy, Jeff, thank you so much for being here tonight. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
We're having a blast so far.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I love this topic. And I realize that, Jeff, we'll start with you on this one. I realize that this is a little bit of a controversial topic. Why do you think there is so much controversy around the Mandela Effect?
I think people get triggered by it because they don't want to accept the fact that reality could be fluid, that their whole world kind of gets rocked in a way that they can't accept. So they go into like a defense mode about it, and they don't want to know about it. They don't want to hear about it because they can't handle it. That's what I think.
And how about for you, Sandy?
I'd have to agree with Jeff. We actually have a term for it called the Smith effect, where you will bring it up to someone, and even if they, like, for example, you brought up the Mayan calendar, and I told you about it's the Maya calendar now. They'll correct, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant," or they'll get this look on their face, and then they just shut down. They don't want to hear anymore. They don't want to talk about it. It's really bizarre. It's not everyone, but when it happens, like, people actually get angry sometimes, and I really do think it's because you're challenging their view of reality, and that's all
their
I can.
paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a real strain on the brain, pun intended, on that, because so many of us, Sandy, remember things one way, and here you are saying, well, it may not be the case. Why don't you give us a couple of strange examples that people can kind of put a pattern to what we're trying to explain to them?
It's interesting that you say pattern, because we do notice a pattern in a lot of things. For example, there's one thing that happens that a lot, unless you're really into the Mandela Effect community, you may not know about, where logos and letters are merging. And what I mean by that is, for example, I have a degree in graphic design. And when I went to school, we were taught that logos should be consistent. Like, when you think, like, if you see the golden arches of McDonald's, you know it's McDonald's. You want a consistent logo. You want brand recognition immediately. It's not common, or it wasn't, for companies to change their logos all the time. And now they change them constantly. And a lot of those logos have lettering, and you wanted those letters to be clear and concise. Now, of course, there's stylistic choices, things like that. But we see specific patterns like R's and A's being connected. Like the letter R will literally be connected to the letter A, or NA, or XI. You'll see X and I together. Specific letters that are connected in logos that we know and love, and we've seen them millions of times, and now the letters are connected. So that's one of the weird patterns that we see. We also see patterns in Mandela effects where if one thing has changed, let's say it's the color blue, something changed to blue, you'll find more Mandela effects that are now blue. Or A and the will drop off or be added to titles. They were talking about it in our chat on Saturday night. There's A Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare Before Christmas, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. And many people remember A Nightmare Before Christmas. Others remember Nightmare Before Christmas. And the current reality is The Nightmare Before Christmas. And sometimes you'll see Beach Boys instead of The Beach Boys, which is very bizarre. Or you'll see other bands, especially bands, they have the added or dropped off. So that's another pattern we see. So it's funny that you should mention patterns, but there's Mandela effects in everything, from the littlest, most mundane thing to huge things like a change in history. For example, are you familiar with the O.J. Simpson trial?
Of course, that was literally the start of infotainment news instead of actual real news.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Johnny Cochran is famous for saying a line during that trial. Do you remember that line?
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
Yes, that is what I remember. And he used to say it just like this. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Just like that. That's exactly how I remember it. Now, this is why I believe we're shifting timelines, because originally when I covered that, he said, if it doesn't fit, acquit. If it doesn't fit, acquit. Now it's, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Doesn't. It was don't. If the glove don't fit, now it's doesn't. And it's absolutely wrong. He was trying to appeal to that jury, and he used those specific words, and now he uses doesn't. And I don't remember doesn't at all. It doesn't sound right. It's too long. And that's another pattern we see. Things will sound too long or look too long. Sentences will look too long or sound too long.
Okay, but let me ask you something about that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this may sound like a very vague question, but what does it matter? What does it matter if, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit, and now it's doesn't, or the Ford logo, or the size of the curly Q on Dairy Queen ice cream? Why does it matter?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But I was actually going to get to that. If anything, our reality is supposed to be static. It's supposed to be stable. Nothing like that is supposed to be able to change unless someone is physically going into history and changing things. But you can't change what Johnny Cochran verbally said. Now, I mean, that's another issue, AI. AI is going to become a big issue with the Mandela effect. I can see that. But even though there are little Mandela effects, and huge Mandela effects. I believe the little ones matter just as much, because nothing in our reality should be able to change at all. It's just like, there shouldn't be a ghost. There shouldn't be an alien. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if it's a blurry picture to someone who believes in UFOs. I am one of them, by the way.
Me too.
Because it supports our beliefs. And you never know what Mandela effect is going to affect someone. My goal is to wake as many people up to this as possible, because again, this shouldn't be happening. This is something that should not be. And yet, here we are with all these things that are wrong for us. And it may be that simple one with a doesn't to don't, or the Beach Boys to Beach Boys, that makes someone say, oh my gosh, that's not right. So I show every single one I can. I think
And
they're
it's
all
much more
important.
than Darius Rucker leaving the Hootie and the Blowfish for becoming a country star of all things. Damn it, that still bugs me. By the way, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to inject some humor. And Jeff, I wanted to ask you a question about it though, because you said earlier, I believe it was you. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Then it was Sandy, about the idea that. No, I believe it was Sandy who said it. Now that I correct myself, maybe it's a Mandela effect. I'm not sure, but in regards to how it affects people differently, like some people may see it on one timeline, and then all of a sudden 6 months down the road they're seeing it the exact opposite way. Why do you think it's affecting people differently?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's one of the strangest parts about this whole thing, is that you could see something and somebody else doesn't see it until you bring it to their attention. And for them, it was that other way until you said something. It could be some kind of glitch in our universe. Who knows? It's just really strange how that happens. And actually, I have an interesting story about my biggest Mandela effect is the Ed McMahon one for Publishers Clearinghouse. I collect a lot of old media, including old commercials from like 60s, 70s, 80s. And I have a huge DVD collection of 80s commercials. And as soon as I found out about the Publishers Clearinghouse Mandela Effect with Ed McMahon, I went and I checked my tapes and my DVDs. I had the Publishers Clearinghouse Ed McMahon commercials on them.
Really?
And yeah, and I remembered that very clearly, that I had them. And I knew where, I knew which discs, which tapes. I went and checked them. So in some cases, they were replaced with the AFP commercials that he's in now. In other cases, that part of the disc and only that part of the disc wouldn't play, or they were replaced by a completely different commercial on that disc. So as soon as I found out about that one, not only did I see the new way, but my physical copies of what I had the old way had changed, which really freaked me out. I felt like I was being punked by the universe when I first went down this rabbit hole. It was crazy, but I was very intrigued by it. And you have to have an open mind with this stuff to really even believe it, even if you recognize the changes. A lot of people, they're just not wired that way to believe in a conspiracy. And they're not going to look into it, and they're just going to, what we call, take the update. Oh, I must have misremembered that, they'll say. And they'll go with the new way. Well, I can't do that. I'm not going to throw away my memories. I know what they were. And it really freaked me out when I found out about all this. A lot of stuff that I had in my house that changed to the new way. It was one thing after the other. Like, I remember Leonard Skinnard being spelled LYNARDSKYNARD. Now it's with a Y instead of an A on Leonard and Skinnerd. I went and checked my CD. Sure enough, it was the new way.
So
And that
that's
freaked me out.
LYRDSKYN skin
I wrote it in the chat for you.
YRD as well.
Yeah, it ends in YRD now.
Yeah.
And I remember very, very clearly ARD. And I even said to a friend of mine who went to one of their concerts, he had pictures and it had their name on the stage. He took pictures. He was like, no, it's ARD. What are you talking about? And he went and checked his pictures, and sure enough, it was YRD, and he was so freaked out by it. So, I mean, people, they don't see it until it's pointed out to them in a lot of cases.
What's with Cuba?
It's a lot bigger.
I remember as a kid, and I realized that maps are doctored in the West. I do get that. For instance, the United States, and a lot of Americans may not like hearing this, but the United States is a lot smaller than what it's portrayed on the map. That has been shown numerous times. Africa is much bigger, but I remember Mexico being pretty much parallel with California, going on down to South America. And now South America on the maps is much closer to Africa than we've ever thought. But Cuba, getting back to that, I remember it being this teeny tiny island, 90 miles approximately from the Florida coast. And now this massive island. And I remember I didn't think about that one until I interviewed Brian Staveley from Dose of Reality, and he pointed it out to me. And when I went and looked at the map, I'm like, there is no way Cuba is that big. It has never been that big from when I remember in school, because I was a geography nut. I loved learning about countries, and that's how I remember Cuba being tiny.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And now it's almost as big as Florida, right? It's crazy. Right. And then South America is shifted so far over, it looks ridiculous. There's no way it was like that. It used to be directly under North America. There's so many changes.
Yeah. And pardon me, Cuba was also on the east coast of Florida, not south of Florida.
Yeah, it's all jacked up now. None of it looks right.
I don't get it.
I agree. And
what's your thoughts?
I was going to add to it as well. You're mentioning South America. I covered a series that I didn't say it was definitely a Mandela effect, because I could have just missed it. It's a TV series. Maybe I didn't see it. But I still presented it to see if anyone else remembered it, called, I think it was Goodnight Beantown. And it starred Bill Bixby. And on the wall of the set, it's about a news station. And on the wall they have the map of the world. South America, the tip, the where like Venezuela and Brazil, you know what I'm saying, like the corner piece that sticks out, was off the coast of northern Florida and Georgia. It had tilted so much that it was east of the United States, east of Florida. And I had never seen that before. And when I showed it to everyone, they couldn't believe it. But you guys were talking about South America below North America. I remember distinctly that the Panama Canal went from west to east, east to west. And now it goes from southwest to northeast and northeast to southwest, because South America has moved so far over and up. It's up a little bit. It's higher than it used to be. And Cuba, I completely agree with you. It was this tiny little island. I believe it's still 90 miles off the coast of Key West, but I remember it being 90 miles off the coast of Miami, not Key West.
Yes.
And that's the problem with the distance for me. But I do remember, that's what I wanted to add, but I do remember it. Not even, it wasn't even half the size that it is now. Probably about a third of the size. It was this tiny little island, and it's huge. It's it's just huge now. I don't remember that at all. I completely agree with you.
And also, the Panama Canal is north-south instead of east-west now.
Hmm.
That's another huge thing
Yep.
that doesn't make any sense.
I have to zoom in on my world map of Google now. Now, let me ask you this in regards to the world map. We have a lot better technology out there that can map things out much more accurate than what we got in elementary school. Like I'm born in the early 70s, in 1973, so I'm going through elementary school in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, or through the 80s, and high school into early 90s when I graduated in 1991. Our technology has improved so much over that since then. Could it not be that our mapping systems improve to become more accurate?
I can say an absolute no because we have maps going back hundreds of years that show everything accurately to this day.
Right. You can look at a map or a globe from 100 years ago, and it'll be the new way.
Hmm. And many
So
people remember there being land at the North Pole. There's never been land there. The land down under is South America, which is the closest to Antarctica, not New Zealand, not Australia, but South America. Sagar Mandela Effect in the chat realized that. Yeah, it's only about 100 miles, I think, maybe even less from Antarctica on the map. And it used to be Australia, then it was New Zealand, and now it's South America. So there's we call them incremental Mandelas, incremental changes to our reality, changes to maps, things like that.
And then there are the, oh, sorry, Dave.
I'm just going to say I'm still blown away by all of this.
I was about to say there are also what we call reality inserts, like Black Tom. You heard about that one?
No, Brian mentioned it. I wasn't familiar with it the last time I interviewed Brian Staveley. So fill me in on
I was
that.
going to say.
Sandy could probably explain it better than me.
I was going to say, Brian Staveley didn't bring up Black. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
pretty sure he did, yeah.
He did, okay. So I'm not even that familiar with it because I haven't looked into it as much. All I know is that a bomb went off, I believe, on the. Brian's in the chat. He could probably correct me if I'm wrong. In New Jersey.
Yes.
And it damaged the Statue of Liberty, which is why no one can go into the torch. But many people remember being able to go into the torch in their childhood.
Including me.
Yes, but it's been closed for 100 years.
I went in the torch that nobody's been able to go in since 1916 because of this Black Tom incident. In 1992, I went into the torch. Now, how is that possible if the torch has been closed since 1916? I was there on a class trip in 1992, and we went in the torch and the crown. So how would we go into the torch? And so many other people remember going into the torch. And they even mention it on TV shows about people going into the torch. And that's good residue for that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many
word residue again. Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Well, you have to have residue to prove our memories. Otherwise, it's just, there's no if there's no residue, how can we say it's really a Mandela effect? The residue supports our memories. And people say, well, how can there be residue if we're shifting timelines? Because people like us create the residue. Their memories, like drawings and videos, things people say and create the residue to support our memories. Like people will say, they'll write blog posts how they went in the torch during grade school, sort of like what Jeff just said, or they will draw my family and the torch at the Statue of Liberty. That's how residue is made. And sometimes it's physically made, like in your case, Dave, where you actually have a key with the F the way that it was.
Sandy, Jeff, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Hard to believe we're already 1 hour in to this weird, strange thing we call the Mandela Effect. It's going to happen again in hour 2 right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, guys, we are clear. Sandy and Jeff, I'm going to put you both in the green room. I'm going to step away for a minute, and I will be right back, okay?
All right.
All right, we'll be right back, everybody. All right. We are back. Got about a minute to go here. Search and Destroy, how you doing? All right. Big thank you tonight to Richard with a hat trick, Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, T-Bone ×2, Sag ×2, Search and Destroy, Kira, Paramarv. Thank you for the awesome super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. And anybody else join in here before I move on? Let's. Oob to Joe's Main. You've got Mandela's. Yes, you do. I think we're caught up. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public. Be proud of it. So let's get ready here. We're coming back in 3 seconds. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're talking the Mandela Effect. Sandy Diva and Jeff Zanzibar are both here breaking down this weird, strange subject that I absolutely love. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to YouTube or on any major podcast network. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. We love you tuning us in each and every night. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Residue. Residue is your password. I love that word. I do. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam says the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. We have Sandy Diva. We have Jeff Zanzibar. We're talking the Mandela Effect. Jeff, Sandy, welcome back. Thank you for being here. And I want to get to a lot of these questions because we talked about the map of the world. We talked about how South America seemed to have slid on over. We've talked about numerous different movies and everything. The human body, we talked about the kidneys. Actually, we haven't talked about the kidneys. We talked about that during the break. Let's talk about kidneys for a second, Sandy, because the human body has allegedly changed. Now, I remember, when I took a couple of boxing classes way early on in life, well, in my late teens, actually, that kidney punches in boxing are illegal because the kidneys were unprotected. That's why we wore, like lacrosse players, wear a kidney belt for protection because the kidneys were right in the lower back. And yet now we're seeing the kidneys are behind the rib cage in the back. I'm not getting this.
That is correct. They are behind your lungs, behind the rib cage. And like I was telling you during the break, when we covered this Mandela Effect years ago, you have to look for residue to show people what you remember. We showed the kidneys much lower in the lower back. And all of the pictures we had of the kidneys were the same size. They were at the same height. Because, our bodies are pretty symmetrical. Like, you don't have one big... I shouldn't say that. Because if I say something that isn't, it tends to become real. But, for example, our hands are usually about the same length. Our arms are about the same length, you see what I'm saying? Our legs are the same length, usually. The average body is split down the middle, and the kidneys were the same size. They were the same height, which was much lower, and now they're much higher. I would say they're closer to, they're right below, I think, where the heart is, like behind your stomach. They're about behind your stomach now. and one kidney is higher than the other, and one kidney is larger than the other. And I also don't remember the adrenal glands looking like giant hats. They were just little glands sitting on top. They look like pyramids, huge pyramids sitting on top of the kidneys. So that's the other issue with the kidneys that I do not remember. I don't know if Jeff remembers anything differently than I do, but that is my memory of the kidneys is exactly like yours, Dave. They were much lower. And I even had a kidney infection when I was a teenager. I remember my lower back was killing me. I had a bad fever. I was on antibiotics for almost 2 weeks. And it was my lower back that hurt, not my upper back. And now you would think it would be your upper back because that's where your kidneys are. And there's so many more anatomical changes that we found over the years, like the size of the pancreas. And Brian Staveley first found we have 2 glands shaped like fangs in the back of our throat that no one seemed to notice despite 100 years of MRIs, X-rays, CAT scans, thousands of years of surgery. No one noticed these two giant fang-shaped saliva glands until I believe 2012 or 2013. That's fishy.
One of the other ones, Jeff, is the heart. Because I remember as a kid, well, I'll give you an example. With Remembrance Day or Veterans Day, up here in Canada, during Remembrance Day, we all wear a poppy. The poppy is supposed to go over the heart, which is on the left side of the chest. And now, if you look at an x-ray, the heart is more in the middle of the chest cavity than over to the left.
Yeah, I remember it being more over to the left as well. That's a big one for me. And I used to be able to feel my heartbeat on the left side. And I can't anymore. Well, because it's not there. Now it's more towards the center. And that's another one that really freaks me out. And there's another big anatomy change. We now have sheaths of bone behind our eyes that weren't there, but now they've always been there, supposedly. So it's like protection for the eyes that wasn't there before. And I remember on old album covers, like, you know how they used to have like the snake going through both eyes on some album covers? Did you ever see that?
No.
Well, they used to do that, but now that wouldn't be possible because there are those bones there that are covering the holes in the skull where the eyes are. It's so strange. There's a lot of body changes, a lot of anatomy changes.
Can I add something to the heart really quickly?
Please.
There is something, I don't think I've ever mentioned it though, but I did notice this after the Mandela Effect. So prior to the Mandela Effect with the heart, a heart attack was always described as pain going up to your jaw and down the left arm. After the Mandela Effect, that's still the same, but I started noticing that heart attacks present differently for women, and it affects the stomach and the middle of the back. And I believe that might actually be because the heart is now in the center. Because prior to hearing that our hearts were no longer on the left-hand side, heart attacks I heard were the same for both men and women, and now it's different. So I don't know if that's part of the Mandela Effect or not. I just wanted to mention that.
Such a strange time. Strange time as we look into the Mandela Effect. Sandy Diva and Jeff Zanzibar are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. A lot of people look at movies. A lot of people look at the smaller things, book titles, movie lines, television shows, Sex and the City. These are all, and I don't want to put them like small potatoes of little changes that have changed. What are some of the larger changes, Sandy, that you have noticed that would affect people on a daily basis?
on a daily basis,
or just in their lives from what they remember?
okay. Well, see, I don't know if it would. For me, the larger Mandela effects are things that we experienced over and over and over again. So, for example, if there are a lot of personal Mandela effects out there where people say, my family is different. A phone number that I had as a child is not the same. For example, a personal Mandela effect with myself is my sister's car is different. It's strange. It's the color of the car. She insists it was her car, so I have to believe her, right? But her car was a different color for me. And that's something that I saw all the time. So I think those are more the, I wouldn't say bigger or affect our daily lives so much as they're more impactful. Like the ones I sent you some Christmas songs. People hear those same songs every single year. They sing along with them every single year. So when a line in one of those songs is different, it doesn't, you know, those are Mandela effects. That's what I mean. They're more impactful. It's like people actually have a reaction to it. They're in shock when they hear it, when it's not the same. But daily lives, I mean, to me, the anatomical changes are the biggest because that affects medicine. I mean, another one would be airplanes. Like the wings of airplanes are completely wrong. I don't even know how airplanes stay in the sky anymore. The engine used to be under the wing, and the wing was stronger and more stable and didn't flip up at the end. And now most wings are super flimsy, and the engines are on a bracket which holds them in front of the wing. And I'm terrified to fly as it is. I have personal history with airplanes that makes me terrified to fly. But I would be scared to fly even if I didn't have that because of the differences in our airplanes, which go back 50, 60 years. You can still find older planes with the regular wings, but the engines are still in the front. It's very rare to find residue of the engines under the wing anymore, besides drawings that people drew of what they remember.
See, I remember that one. I remember even as a kid, because I had an addiction to airplanes, always remembered the engines being tucked underneath the wing.
I couldn't agree more. They look so wrong, and
Yeah.
some of them have I don't remember the back of the airplane having like a hole, and they also have an engine in the back on a lot of planes, and I don't remember that at all as well.
Fruit of the Loom used to have a cornucopia in it. Now it does not.
That's one of my other biggest ones. 2015, I noticed that one. I couldn't find Fruit of the Loom. That's the brand I use. I couldn't find it because I was looking for a cornucopia that was never there. It's crazy.
And I was trying to make a video on it, but I was working with an iPad and it was just giving me problem after problem. So I showed what I had done on a live stream. Recently on TikTok, people are sharing photoshopped Fruit of the Loom tags and saying, look, see, it's not a Mandela. Here's the tag. And they're photoshopped. And I proved it. I recreated it. And I showed that two of the tags they were showing was just the image flipped. And the third one, Fruit of the Loom themselves, on April 1st, I believe it was 2017. I might be wrong on the year. It may have been 2015. On April Fool's Day, they added the cornucopia to the logo all over their website. And so the third tag was the Fruit of the Loom April Fool's Day logo. So that one is huge. Everyone that I ask remembers the cornucopia, but it's
Same.
never been there. Never been there.
There's a couple of famous paintings that have been changed, namely
Yes.
Mona Lisa,
Mhm.
and I believe it's King Henry VIII with the turkey leg. Who wants to take that one on?
There's a lot more than that as well. But yeah, the King Henry VIII people remember a turkey leg, and I think it's gloves that he's holding in his hand now. And the Mona Lisa, I actually recreated it recently because I've never seen anyone, like so many people have recreated it to, this is how it was, and they always leave the eyes off. The eyes are smiling. You can't not fix the eyes. So for me, the Mona Lisa, like one corner was down and one corner was slightly up, but basically her mouth was straight across. And her eyes were not smiling. They're deep set and smiling now. Like the corner of her eye goes up like a smile. So I recently recreated it to show everyone what I remember, because I've never seen anyone create it like I did. And like I said, I went to school for graphic design. I actually had art history classes. I really studied these paintings. And that's why I also found other paintings, like the girl with the pearl earring. It looks, if anyone's familiar with that, the pearl earring is gigantic now, and her mouth is open. It was closed before. And Son of Man is the famous painting where there's a guy in a bowler hat, and he's got an apple in front of his face. In my past, it was an apple with just one leaf, and you could not see anything on his face. But now you see his eyes poking out of the sides of the apple. And on top of the apple, there's like 10 leaves. It's like this bush on top of the apple. It looks ridiculous. And the background used to be like this cartoony blue sky with white puffy clouds. And now it's like this gloomy sky. So the whole painting is different. It's crazy. But the way I see it is, I don't know if you're going to get into it, but I have my own theory on why this is happening. That is, it's not completely different. It's like the shifting timelines theory with other things added to it. But the shifting timelines, all it takes is that we're in a reality where the artist decided to go in a different direction. And now the painting doesn't have a turkey leg. And the Mona Lisa has a little more of a smile. And it's a gloomy day for the Son of Man. That's all it takes, is someone, Kit Kat, missing its dash. In one reality, the graphic designer brought the options to the company. In one reality, they chose the dash, and the other, they did not. I see it as simple as that. I see time as like, imagine like 10,000 timelines, and we are constantly weaving in and out, which also can cause a flip-flop, where, for example, Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem, became Houston, we've had a problem, went back to Houston, we have a problem. And Flintstones without the T, goes back and forth. Captain versus Captain Crunch go back and forth. I actually found someone who remembers Cap'n, remembered it changing to Captain, and says that it's Cap'n again. So it's a flip-flop for them, but for me it was Captain Crunch, and now it's been Cap'n since I learned the Mandela Effect. So that's why I believe we switch. I think we're constantly moving in and out timelines, which would explain why some people are affected by things at different times. At least I think that's what would explain it. This is all obviously.
I think that's a great explanation, and one that definitely makes sense. Do you think then, Jeff, as we bring you into the conversation, do you think these timelines then show or prove a multiverse?
I definitely think they could, yeah. And there are a lot of other theories that people have. Some are more believable than others. But I definitely think that that's what's happening. But I also think that there are a few other things that could be happening as well at the same time. I don't think it's any one thing that's causing the Mandela effect.
I agree.
I think that it could also be possibly God trying to open our eyes and show us, that there's more to the world than what we know. I don't think it's time travel. I don't think it's the Matrix or anything like that. But I do think we're shifting timelines, and I do think that there is a possibility that we move to another Earth after 2012 or in 2012.
That's the other part of my theory that he's talking about.
Yeah.
Why, with 3 minutes to go, why do we keep bringing up 2012?
I think a lot of people just because that was supposed to be the end of the world. They made it big in media that the Mayan calendar was ending. It's going to be the end of the world, and so actually some people started noticing Mandela effects around 2012.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was 2016, but for others, it was earlier.
And for me, it was in the 80s.
And the other, well, yeah, I do have a Mandela effect now that I'm aware of the Mandela effect that happened much sooner. But there's not enough time to get into my theory if there's like 2 minutes. So I'm not going to, but it does have to do with the 2012 thing, just not the Mayan calendar.
Well, I think we learned that the Mayan calendar was completely blown out of proportion, and it didn't even account into affect leap years.
That's true. I'll try to get this out as fast as I can. This is going to sound crazy, but the shifting timelines does not explain South America shifting position, Cuba being 3 times as large, the North Pole being missing, the land mass. So I looked into tectonic plate movements and the movement of the solar system and the universe, and I came across an article where many people in the Mandela Effect community remember us in the Sagittarius arm, and we are currently in, well, there's conflicting reports, the Orion Spur and the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy, which didn't exist in my past at all. And there's a chunk of the Sagittarius arm missing where we should have been. So when you look at tectonic plate movement and you look even the sun, like many people remember the sun being a yellow star and now it's white, it's going to sound nuts. But for me, I believe that God can do anything, and whatever happened in that section of the galaxy, I believe God saved us. And the way he saved us possibly was moving us to an earlier version of Earth, which would explain why there's all this new weather phenomenon, why there's animals that were extinct that are no longer extinct, why Cuba is much bigger, why the continents are in different locations. Because in the future, South America will be below North America. In the future...
On that note, let me cut you off right there because we do have to go to break here. We're going to get to audience questions on the Mandela Effect next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, guys, we are clear. I'm having so much fun tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you.
Me too. Yeah, thanks.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Flies on by.
Huh?
It's flying on by.
It is,
It is.
yeah.
It is.
Definitely a lot of fun.
But yeah, the Earth thing, it's the only thing. Not, for example, like I said, a chunk of the entire, they can't explain it. The entire arm, a chunk of it, millions of light years across, is just missing. So I would guess maybe a black hole. I don't know. But an earlier version of Earth explains the physical changes to the Earth for me. The sun will be a yellow star in the future. So that would mean that even though we're not in the past, the Earth is newer. The Earth that we're on is newer, if that makes sense. Sounds crazy, but shifting timelines doesn't explain Cuba being huge. It doesn't explain South America being in the wrong position. And the only other theory that I think could explain that would be the simulation theory. But I have a problem with the simulation theory because I have a disabling condition with no cure. There's no treatment for my type, but the other types there is some, but not much. I live in bed. I literally live in bed. I like 90% of every single day. If I am aware that we're in a simulation, wouldn't I be able to control it to some degree? And wouldn't I be putting myself in this position to some degree? Because I cannot believe that. So that dismisses simulation theory for me completely.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with her on that. I just don't think it could be simulation theory. And it can't be time travel because then it would still be, it would be kind of static still, but it would be something different, but it wouldn't be where we see all these different flip-flops and people noticing changes at different times. It doesn't work. The theory just doesn't work for me. And CERN is another theory that doesn't work for me.
I do believe that CERN could be amplifying the effect, not causing it though. Because I do notice that when they announce that they're turning it on, I see many, many, many more Mandela effects that are more impactful than when CERN is off. But
yeah,
I continue to see Mandela effects weekly when CERN is off. So I do not believe they're causing it.
They're not causing it, but they're amplifying it.
Still weirded out by it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The only reason why I started doing this, and I had so much to say that I didn't even get it out, was that I started going on Twitter, and Brian MacFarlane asked me to come on his show, and then I started from there on YouTube, because I was seeing Mandela effects multiple every single day, and I wanted to get them out there, so I started posting them on Twitter, and that's how Brian found me, and I started streaming on YouTube on his channel. But it was the only way to not feel crazy, was to share them and to hear that others remembered it like I did. Because when you first wake up to this, it's very upsetting. It's upsetting. It's disorienting. You start to question your sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Don't kid yourself on that. That's for sure.
And then you think you can, tell people and they'll be like, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. But that's not always the case. They think you're crazy in a lot of cases. So you need to find like-minded people that understand something's going on here. And it's probably not just misremembering.
Right. Hi, 11 Souls Productions. How you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat. We got about 30 seconds before we're going to go back on the air here. And in 19 days, it'll be 10 years that we've been on the air.
Oh, wow.
19 days.
Congratulations.
All right. Yeah, thank you to our super chatters. Seg, with a hat trick, Search and Destroy with 2, Deb with a hat trick, T-Bone with a hat trick, Richard times 4, Paramarv, Kira, love you guys. Thank you very much. Here we go. In like 5 seconds. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We get into the weird and strange like the Mandela Effect tonight. And you sit back, relax, and enjoy the woo. It's a real simple process that we hope you take in each and every night. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. You can always download them for free. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We have Sandy, we have Jeff, we have the Mandela Effect. We have a lot of stuff to talk about tomorrow night because it's all getting pretty real here into the final half hour. Sandy, before we get to audience questions, in regards to Mandela Effect, for people who may be struggling to believe this, what is the one thing you want them to know?
Definitely come check out one of our shows. Go to any YouTube channel that shows residue. It's hard to deny. Like, search out things that you are definitely sure of that you know. Because if you see something that you don't know, it's not, and it doesn't affect you, you're going to dismiss it. Don't just see one Mandela effect and assume that you're not affected. I believe every person is affected by the Mandela effect. They just haven't found the Mandela effect that affects them yet. And don't discount your memory. Our memories are amazing. Our brains are amazing. I mean, we remember so much just for every day. Just to get out of bed, you remember how to do certain things. You remember how to get to work. You remember how to get to a friend's house. Why would you forget things that you loved? That makes no sense at all.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff, how about for you?
Well, I would tell people, besides what Sandy said, I would tell people not to be scared of it because it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's not really a scary thing. It's a little scary once you realize something could be going on here, something is going on, but not to be afraid of it and to keep an open mind and to search and to research it as much as you possibly can because it really is fascinating. And I would tell people, just please don't dismiss it and don't just assume people are misremembering thousands of things because I just don't think that's possible. And I agree with Sandy that our memories are better, than what they might tell us. Our memories are good. And a lot of things that we've seen so many times over and over again, there's no way we could forget that. So there's definitely something going on here. So I would just tell people, never dismiss it. Don't be scared of it and look into it as much as you possibly can because it's fascinating.
Let's get to some audience questions here. Let's start off with Mike here, who is asking, do you think the Mandela effect is some kind of proof or evidence that we are living in some type of simulation? Jeff, do you want to start with that one?
Well, I don't believe in simulation theory. So I would say no to that, but that's just my opinion. But it could be. I mean, we don't know. It's not like we know, so I guess anything's possible. But again, that's not my theory.
How about for you, Sandy?
I agree with Jeff 100%. But again, there's I don't see any way for us to know. There's no way to prove any of our theories that I can think of. So it's just as valid if people believe it. And like I said, I mean, it's the only other thing that I feel can explain continents shifting and Kit Kat losing its dash at the same time, besides the theory that I have made, which again, just made it up, just made it up based on research that I looked at. they're just all theories. So they're all just as valid. I just don't believe that it is that. But it could be proof. It could be proof for any of them.
All right, let's move on to Polly here. Polly is asking, and Sandy, will start with you. If an amount of people went through the same kind of traumas, could that be the cause or reason for the Mandela effect?
It's possible, but the things that we see people remembering en masse of the Mandela effect, I don't see being related to traumas. It's more childhood memories, beloved childhood memories, or memories, like I said, of your favorite song that you heard a million times, that you have on CD or you had on an album or a cassette or an MP3, whatever format, that you heard thousands and thousands of times. I mean, they definitely could be linked to trauma. I did, however, do a poll in Teresa's Facebook group to see if there was a connection with the people in the group, things that we have in common. And the number one thing at the top of the list at the time, and I've noticed it's not the same anymore. If I did the poll, I would get completely different answers. But at the time, the number one thing is that people were night owls. I don't know why being a night owl would matter, but most people said that was it. The other things were they were sick or had a disability, so that's definitely a trauma. But there really wasn't much that people had in common. I was only sampling about 2,500 people, so not a great sample, but still a pretty decent amount. But like I said, anything is possible because I can't see any way that we can positively determine what is causing this. So anything like this is possible. But like I said, I don't equate trauma with beloved childhood memories. So I don't think it's trauma, but anything's possible.
All right, let's move on here. T-Bone here is asking Jeff, do you think the Mandela effect had any part to play in the space shuttle disasters?
No, I don't think that has anything to do with it at all. I know some people think that those events happened at different times than they actually did in this timeline. But other than that, I don't really see any evidence of that.
Can I chime in on this one?
Please.
Okay, so there are some things with the space shuttle disaster that are Mandela effects for me, like Krista McAuliffe's name. Her name was never Sharon Krista McAuliffe in my past. Her name is spelled differently. It was MCC, C capital C, ULLOUGH. CLLOUG, yes, McAuliffe, CULLOUGH. And now it's McAuliffe, AULIFFE. Completely spelled differently from what I remember. And again, her name is Sharon. I don't remember Sharon at all. Chris is her middle name. So there are things with the space shuttle disaster that are a Mandela effect for me, including that they survived. I don't remember them surviving. I remember them passing instantly. But apparently they survived to the water. And you can see them fall to the water now. There's a video of them falling. I don't remember ever seeing that video ever, but it's always been around. I have to cough I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah, but so there are many Mandela effects surrounding the space shuttle disaster. But what Jeff was speaking about is some people remember it happening an earlier year. For Jeff and I, it was 100% 1986. We remember watching it in class.
Yes.
That's what he's referring to.
All right,
So the
let's
answer
move
is
on
yes.
to the question here. Let's go to Luna. The world is littered with signs and symbols of powers that be. Why is Mandela Effect not targeted to modify their signs and symbols? Do the controllers pick and choose what to modify?
Me or Jeff?
Take you
Yes.
on that one, Sandy.
Okay. I don't understand the question as in symbols of the Mandela effect. I know signs and symbols like the pyramid, things like that, but I don't see the Mandela effect as actually having signs and symbols. But I did mention earlier, like the letters merging. I guess you could say that. Like, I wish I had an example off the top of my head, but for example, Kia, the A is now a lambda. It's also in Samsung, going all the way back. The A's are losing the stick in the middle. That's another pattern we see. But there are signs and symbols everywhere. I just can't think of, Jeff, can you think of any signs or symbols specific to the Mandela effect?
No.
Yeah, unless I'm misunderstanding the question.
Not a problem. We can move on anyways. Let's go to Mike here. When do you think the next timeline will be for when things will change?
I think we change
Timeline.
timelines all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a set time. I think we are constantly shifting because of the amount of Mandela effects I see all the time, and the amount of times I've had I have an entire archive. I do everything with graphics, and the reason why I use graphics, I make slides, is because we can see if anything in those slides are different from what we showed before. And also, it reminds us of what we've covered to see if anything is different. And there have been, you will see multiple folders like rainbows, round 3, because things, that's why we call them incremental changes. And that, I believe that's because we're constantly shifting in and out of timelines. That also creates flip-flops. And I don't think it's a set time at all. I think it's just the
Yeah, it
way
keeps
our
happening.
world works. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
It keeps happening. Something that's constant.
All right, let's go over to Eriko here. Could the Mandela effect be a hint of a sinister activity going on? Jeff, let's start with you.
Absolutely. And I also think that some of the smaller changes could be side effects of some of the bigger changes that were made by whatever's doing this. And I think there's an intelligence behind it because sometimes it speaks to us directly, like with certain things that'll change seemingly just for me or for somebody else. It seems directed at certain people at certain times. It's very strange. So I think that there definitely could be something sinister going on. That was actually one of my first thoughts when I got into this. I actually thought that that could be what's going on. So yeah, definitely.
How about you, Sandy?
I also agree that I don't think it's a person. I do believe this could be the great deception mentioned in the Bible, that the devil is doing this, deceiving us, and that God gives us the eyes to see the Mandela effect, to see the truth, for us to remember the truth. So I do think there could be some sinister activity going on. Like Jeff said, I don't believe one thing is causing the Mandela effect. I think multiple things are happening at once.
Yeah.
I believe we're shifting timelines. I think we shifted to an earlier version of Earth. And I believe that Satan could be playing a part. I really do.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go ahead,
Sorry,
Jeff.
Dave. I was just going to say I was going to mention that last part she said earlier, but I wasn't sure I was allowed to.
Well, let's go to a different question here. Let's head on over to Preliminal. I know I got his name wrong, or her name, but do you think maybe we died and transferred to an extension realm, purgatory?
Yes.
I think
I
it's always
think,
possible.
yeah,
Go ahead.
anything's possible.
Okay, nice and quick there. Let's go over to T-Bone, who is asking, is the Mandela effect at large in movies?
Yes. There's so many Mandela effects in movies. But they're usually little. But not always. Like, if you build it, they will come. It has always been, if you build it, he will come. Which makes no sense. Like, it makes sense. Like, they're trying to say, if you build it, your father will come. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everyone. The movie's very old. Field of Dreams. But when I saw the movie and the quote was, if you build it, they will come, they were having financial issues. And they were the people coming to watch these games.
Exactly.
And at the end of the movie, you see all the cars coming down the road, like a traffic jam of cars lined up to come to the baseball field.
Yep.
So
It was always they till it wasn't.
yes. And there's so many quotes. Like, here's one that most people don't know. It's from a very old movie. Buckle your seatbelts, boys. It's going to be a blank night. Oh, I just gave it away.
Yeah.
This is why I do graphics too. It used to be it's going to be a bumpy ride, and now it's bumpy night.
Yep.
So I remember, buckle your seatbelts, boys. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and now it's a bumpy night. But there's so many quotes. There's color changes. C3PO. Don't even get me started on C3PO. C3PO has Wolverine claws now. If you look at his hands, there's pistons all over his body now, and he has pistons on his hands that stick out like 2-3 inches when his knuckles are closed. That I don't remember, like Wolverine claws. And he has 2 pistons on his chest where his collarbone would be, that used to be connected to his neck, that now just sticks straight up into the air. It looks ridiculous. There's about 100 things different with C3PO that changed over time. Like, we covered him and certain things weren't there, and then we had to cover him again because now there's new things. Then we had to cover him again. It's ridiculous. It all
Yep.
started with Silver Leg.
Star Wars keeps changing incrementally, as well as Back to the Future.
Yes, Back to the Future is another one that's very Mandela.
Well,
And we also...
we got 5 minutes left. Tell me about Back to the Future.
Oh. So Back to the Future, really quickly, I remember an orange vest. It's red. The dress that his mother wore, it used to be just... See, this is why we show pictures, so you can see the difference. There's like this white polka dot thing on top, like a what's that called? The stuff that a veil is made of, like a wedding veil. The like a
shawl.
Yeah, like it's very. It's
Yeah.
like yeah, it's like that see-through stuff. But there's like this pattern on top that doesn't cover the whole skirt in the front. So her dress is different. The father wore a white jacket. Now it's tan. I have a short where I remember Marty being surprised, Biff pulling him out of the car. He wasn't prepared for it. It was a surprise. It was like they were talking. Marty and his mom were talking, and next thing you know, he's being pulled out of the car by a fist. And now, she says, he's coming. And they know he's coming, and he's like, oh no. As he gets pulled out of the car, the whole scene is different. So we see scene changes, we see colors change, we see quotes change in movies. I think the reason why there's a lot of Mandela effects with movies is because we've seen them a million times. And when something's different, it's like a big flashing light bulb, you know?
Yeah, whatever is doing this is trying to get our attention, and it's using the things that we see the most.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Back to the Future. Gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. We got 3.5 minutes. Let's try and get a couple more questions in here. Let's go to Super Crazy. Do you think it's possible that Mandela himself could have had memories of dying earlier?
Interesting. I do know that there's someone, and Jeff, if you remember who it is, please chime in, who remembers their song. Oh, it was Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's song, you've been struck by a smooth criminal, is now you've been hit by in the first verses. And he even said, like, there's a video of him, and he's like, huh? That's not right. So he recognized his own song was wrong, him singing it. So I think it's very possible
Yeah.
that he could have had maybe nightmares that he died in prison.
That would have been weird.
That would have been very weird.
Melissa would like to know, do you think all of our false memories are Mandela effects?
No.
Absolutely not. I don't believe in false memories. I believe that we do sometimes, like I will say, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, or this may not be a Mandela effect. That's why I put it to my chat to determine, like, if everyone remembers it the way I do, then maybe it is a Mandela effect. But I can't say for sure because I don't have a super strong memory of it. But I don't believe in false memories. I believe that's the media, the medical community telling us this, because they lie to us about so much stuff. Why would we believe this? Why would we believe that they lie to us about these things, but when they say we have false memories, we believe it? That makes no sense. I don't believe in false memories.
Me either.
Unless they were implanted.
We got just over a minute to go here. And one of the things I love about this topic is it's just ever expanding. It never seems to stop. And you seem to have a very, very large crew of listeners and people to your podcast on YouTube that are searching for this stuff as well. That bridges for a big community of people who are helping Sandy.
Oh, yes. 100%. My community is the absolute best in the whole world, honestly. I know you would probably argue that for your community.
No, mine is. No, mine is.
Yes, mine is. But, yeah, no, I mean, like I said to them in the chat earlier, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for them. And they really are the best, the absolute best. And Dave, we would like to extend an invite to you to join one of our shows, which is going to be hard because you have a show every night at midnight. We could always change the time for you if you wanted us to.
I would totally do that. Totally do
Awesome.
that. Let's
that would
do
be
that.
great.
Sandy, Jeff, I have to say goodnight to you, but thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio, introducing us to the Mandela Effect a little bit more in your podcast, Mandela Effects After Dark, that you guys share. Coming up next, we have Swamp Dweller, followed by Little Timmy James and the UFO Report.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Great show, guys. Fantastic show. That was so much fun.
Oh, it was amazing. Thank you so much for having us on. And thank you to your chat for being amazing. You guys are
Yes.
awesome. Thank you for donating and participating. You guys were great.
Oh, and thank you for bringing in a bunch of people who may not have heard of what we do here. I hope they all hit subscribe, rang that bell, because we are here 7 days a week. But I will let you guys go. Jeff, Sandy, thank you again. We got to do this again. Have to.
Definitely.
And
Thank
I'll
you
reach
so
out
much.
to you. You let
Yeah.
us know when it's good for you to come on our show.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Just let me know your times, and we'll figure something out. And I'd love to join you guys.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dave. Have a
Thanks,
great
Dave.
night.
Take
Have
care,
a good
guys.
night, Dave. Take care.
Jeff and Sandy, everybody. How awesome were they? They were fantastic. We'll be right back, everybody. All right. We're coming back. All right. Yeah, Mandela affected the studio. It used to be shag carpet. You're so loud. Baywatcher, how you doing, man? All right, we got about a minute here. I got a ton of super chats to go over. Richard times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cake. Sag times 4. T-Bone with a hat trick. Actually, I think T-Bone's with a hat trick. And Search times 2. Deborah Rooney with a hat trick. With 4. Kira. Paramarv. Thanks for the love, guys. Gary, thank you. Residue. Love that word, man. Residue. That's right. That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt. We're going to add that one. Okay. If you didn't miss what Tim said, it was friends don't let friends UAP. And we could do friends don't let friends squatch.
There you go.
I love it. Sandy and Jeff were great.
Yeah, they were awesome.
They were awesome.
Very cool.
Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. How y'all doing? My name is Dave Scott. We got Swamp Weller. We have Tim James coming up with the UFO report. This is third hour coming right at you. But first, I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Residue. Residue is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. So to start off, I grew up on a small farm surrounded by forest. It's a small town below a major city in Appalachia. The first incident with this entity was probably when I was maybe 8 to 10, so 10 or 13 years ago. I was in my bedroom at home listening to music and playing. My window was open and it was evening, getting dark, but I could still see outside. I noticed my dad walking by my window, stone-faced. I was going to say hello to him, but decided not to. Later, I mentioned it to my mom that I saw my dad pass my window. She informs me that my dad was at home and was away. And she also said that, anyway, my window was way too high, so there's no way I would have been able to see my dad walk by it. My mom decides that it was probably a bear. We had a lot of hunting dogs that very often would freak out over nothing, but at the time of seeing what I thought was my dad, they weren't upset. I've mentioned this to my significant other before and my friends. We were talking about strange moments, and my significant other tells me that this story reminds her of something that she saw when we were visiting my dad in his peripherals. He said it looked like a very tall person who didn't see specific details, but that it walked past the large kitchen window. He meant to tell me earlier, but honestly forgot. It's really weird, and I'm not sure what else to think about it, but since my significant other told me he saw it too, I've been trying to research what it might be. I've also just felt creeped out of the thought of going to my dad's again. I've had a lot of other weird experiences that I'm not sure what to think of on that farm, such as going hiking and finding small shacks in the middle of the woods that are on my dad's property, then not being able to find them ever again. My mother calling me from outside while I was playing and telling me she heard screaming thinking it was me, and couldn't see me in the yard, and thought a wild animal could have grabbed me. Not sure if they're related, but I figured I'd add that. I live in eastern Tennessee with our husband and 3 dogs. We live in a lakeside home in Greenback.
If you are familiar with the area, you have likely heard of Hope Castle. The castle is about a 2-minute hike through the woods from my place. The story I'm about to tell isn't recent and is from a time before the castle was open to the general populace. It was early in the year 2000 and the night was cold. I was unable to sleep, so I took Freddy, my English Mastiff, for a walk in the woods. Keep in mind, he's about 200 pounds. We were walking by a little creek near the castle when I heard howling, closer to a cry in truth, in the distance. This was the point when my dog began acting nervous, which is highly unlike him. I saw a crack in the castle wall, and upon entering it, I was overtaken with a smell of rust and iron. The smell was bad enough it made my eyes water. I began walking around, searching for the source of the awful smell, at which point I entered a room with light. The source of light was 3 tea-light candles in the room. I found an 8-foot-tall half-human, half-dog-looking creature. The creature smelled of death, and I immediately turned to run, but behind me, I could hear the creature screeching my name. The sound was terrifying. I tried running again, but my dog just wouldn't move. The creature ran toward us, at which point Freddy lunged at it. He tried latching onto the creature's chest. However, the creature threw Freddy at me. It was at this point, Freddy got up and began running with me. Behind us, I could still hear the creature screeching my name. This continued as I ran all the way home, until, finally, I slammed the door behind me, and the creature's screams and screeches suddenly fell silent. Examining my brave Freddy, I noticed he had 3 claw marks in the side of his breast. I took Freddy to the vet, and they had to euthanize him. By morning, he had black mold growing inside his wounds. Yes, you heard that right. Black mold. Shortly after this, we cremated Freddy and took his ashes to his favorite lake. 19 years later, I opened my window and heard the screeches of that creature again. The next morning, I looked at my house to find 3 claw marks across the front door. And now, I'm really not sure what to do. I haven't heard it or seen any more scratches since then.
Oh, nothing freaky about that. Nothing freaky about that at all.
No.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you can get thousands of stories that'll creep you out each and every night. It's a UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Tim James here with the UFO report. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, and you saw.
Still tripping out over the Mandela effect.
Yeah, that was super cool. And I've never got into that, but that was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that makes sense.
All right, I got to ask you, because you're seemingly new to a lot of these topics over the last few months, and you've kind of had your feet thrown to the fire here with it. When you look at the Mandela effect, what kind of tripped you out?
Just like the changes and stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'd never really paid attention to, and then when obviously listening to the show tonight and you guys bring it up, I was like, yeah, oh yeah, like it's just so funny that it never registered, and then it's like, of course, yeah, like the spelling of Leonard Skinner, all that sort of stuff. It was just like,
now there's one I want to talk to you about, because you are a giant music fan.
Yep.
You're a former bar band guitarist. Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
What do you remember it as?
I remember the A. I do remember the A's, but then of course, I remember the 2 Y's now. And then, I mean, as a kid, I always pronounced it wrong. I always pronounced it like Leonard, but it's Leonard. And yeah, I remember the A's at the end, and I didn't until I heard Jeff say something. I was like, that's right. And my brain's going back to the album covers, and I was like, hang on a second. What's going on? So yeah, different, that's for sure. And at first I was like, oh, these are just branding changes, right? But no, not everything's a branding change.
It's an interesting topic.
Very.
Where's your kidneys?
Apparently in behind my rib cage. I never knew that before.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's totally weird. Jeff and Sandy were great.
Yes, they were awesome.
I got some breaking UFO news for you because we ended up getting an email earlier today from MUFON Canada.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm going to read this to you. Okay. And we're going to try and get Dave Palachuk back on Spaced Out Radio here
Right on.
to talk about this. But groundbreaking study by MUFON Canada suggests some UAPs have been found to show evidence of operational warp propulsion with pathway for experimental validation. New research connects nested microwarp bubbles with real-world UAP observations, recommending repeatability testing for further proof. So this is what they released. A new study published by MUFON Canada reveals groundbreaking insights into microwarp bubble technology, suggesting that certain UAP phenomena may be evidence of advanced warp propulsion technology currently in use by unknown operators. This paper, titled Exotic Propulsion Theory and Evidence of Operational Warp Drive Propulsion Found in UAP Videos, combines theoretical advancements with observational data to propose practical applications for warp propulsion, grounded in the principles of Alcubierre's warp physics.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't even know if I pronounced that properly. The research examines key UAP videos, including government-released footage of Aguadilla, Rubber Duck, and La Brugia, as well as civilian-sourced recordings revealing signs of gravitational lensing and atmospheric decompression cooling, spatial contraction, that align with warp field effects. Based on these findings, the paper presents a pathway for repeatability testing using Skywatch events to further confirm the existence and functionality of subliminal warp propulsion within observed UAPs. This study provides a framework for validating warp propulsion, suggesting that UFOs may already employ operational subliminal warp technology, said Chad Wanless, FI2 CAG and engineering technologist. The research combines theory with observational data, bridging the gap between conceptual physics and empirical evidence. Highlights of the study and recommended testing approach: nested micro warp bubble configurations, discusses layer warp field designs to enhance stability to create practical propulsion models and flight control functionality, warp effects observed in UAP videos. Analysis of footage shows gravitational lensing and decompression cooling effects consistent with warp theories, indicating evidence for current operational use by operational or operators unknown. And repeatability testing with skywatching events. This paper provides a method for using skywatch events to observe and confirm warp-like phenomena, building a case for real-world application. Now, this study can be found on MUFON Canada's website, and it's drawing significant attention from scientific and UAP researcher communities interested in potential real-world propulsion systems. That's good science.
Holy. Yeah, that's a mouthful. I mean, that's like, I remember doing that in grade 8. No, like, I know, right? So, yeah, that is interesting, but I'd actually have to sit and read it so I can absorb it a little bit better. But yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, you know,
I got to be honest. I don't know. I'm so far out from that. I don't know what any of that means. Any of that. But I'm willing to trust them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm willing to trust them.
For sure. No, it sounds like I've stumbled across articles and stuff like that before, and you get into that first paragraph and you go, oh my gosh, I don't even know what half these words mean, but obviously it's, you know, it's there for a reason, and you look it up, dig a little deeper. But yeah, listening to you, I was trying to keep up with the words. You lost me at bubbles.
No, I think the study is definitely something that is warranted. We got to get them on the air.
Yeah,
absolutely. We have to talk about this, right?
No, for sure.
Do you think, though, let me add this to you, because you've seen all the videos and everything like that. Do you think we're drawing closer to figuring out what technology they have, or do you think we're still quite trying to hypothesize it?
I think that there are people in the know. I mean, I guess that's kind of a lame answer, but I think there are people in the know. And I think from us standing on the outside, it's speculation. But I would say that, again, nothing. There's always a reports, like we've talked about. It's always over the military bases, and that's where the threats are and stuff. I mean, there was just recently too. There was people saying that they were seeing during the drone thing out at Langley, they were seeing tons of that stuff over Area 51 and outside of Las Vegas and stuff as well. So I'm kind of wondering, if it's not something that they've invented, if they're out there and there's extraterrestrial crafts out there flying around, or are they using the technology in some new build? That's a possibility as well too, right? So I would think that there's probably some advancement way further ahead of where we would actually think that the advances in that sort of stuff are right now. Pretty sure.
All right, what do you got for us tonight?
I've got a couple of things. So I guess they released the guest list for Wednesday's meeting, and Mr. Elizondo will be there, and I pronounce his last name again.
Tim Gallaudet.
Thank you. He will be there. I think we've got had a list of names and I can't remember where I put them, but there's four speakers. Yeah. So 4 guests and they will be there. So Gallaudet put out his, I guess, memo or his letter to the hearing today. And the other one, they all said, it was only him that put it out. But no, Lou put one out too. So there's a couple out there right now. Starting with Lou's, it's probably a little easier. So his written testimony for Wednesday's hearing, greetings, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grotham, ranking members, Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomena, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred and will always put the safety of American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences of excessive secrecy and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. So that was his written testimony. Interesting. Now, the other one, quite extensive, and that was, again, by Tim Gallaudet. So among the 4 witnesses testifying during the Congressional UFO hearing, it appears that only Tim Gallaudet has provided pre-hearing written testimony, which is not true. This came up before Lou released his. So again, with the same greetings, Chairwoman Mace and all the committee members, thank you for the opportunity to testify. Confirmation that UAPs are interacting with humanity came from me in January 2015 when I was serving as the commander of the Naval Meteorology and Oceanography Command. At the time, my personnel were participating in a pre-deployed naval exercise off the U.S. East Coast that included the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group. This exercise was overseen by the United States Fleet Forces Command, led by a 4-star admiral who also served as my superior officer. During this exercise, I received an email on the Navy Secure Network from the operations officer of the Fleet Forces Command. The email was addressed to all subordinate commanders, and the subject line read in all capital letters, "Urgent Safety of Flight Issue." The text of the email was brief but alarming, with words to the effect, "If any of you know what these are, tell me ASAP. We are having multiple near midair collisions, and if we do not resolve it soon, we will have to shut down the exercise." Attached to the email was what is now known as the Go Fast video, captured on the forward-looking infrared sensors aboard one of the Navy F-18s aircraft participating in the exercise. The now declassified video shows an unidentified object exhibiting flight and structural characteristics unlike anything in our arsenal. The implication of the email was clear. The author was asking whether any of the recipients were aware of classified technology demonstrations that could explain these objects. But the Department of Defense policy is to rigorously deconflict such demonstrations with live exercises. I was confident this was not the case. The very next day, the email disappeared from my account and those of the other recipients without explanation. So, little tidbit.
One of the things that just caught my attention, maybe I heard it wrong.
Mhm.
Did he say multiple collisions?
Yes. I will find that again attached to the email. Yeah. Urgent safety issue. The text email, brief and alarming, with words to the effect, "If any of you know what these," plural, "are, tell me ASAP. We are having multiple near midair collisions."
Oh, near midair. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
pushing threat narratives.
Yeah.
I heard that wrong then.
Yeah. That's all right.
So the other two
Mm-hmm.
are Mike Gold.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gentleman who has worked extensively with NASA.
Right.
So the question is, are they going to grill him about what NASA knows, especially after their absolutely fake news, bogus report that they put out a year ago, which, in my opinion, all of them needed a good shaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other gentleman who will be speaking is the founder of Public, Michael Schellenberger.
That's right.
Who was tipped off to Immaculate Constellation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we further that by finding out from sources that Immaculate was the project.
Yeah.
Constellation was a sub-project
Right.
off of Immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
And that likely has been changed.
Mm-hmm.
The name and the mission has all been changed by now. So it is exciting. I think it's a good group. I'm not sure I agree with Michael Schellenberger being there because outside of Immaculate Constellation, he really has not been in ufology.
Right.
Okay. And I would have preferred to see George Knapp there or maybe Ross Coulthart, maybe Chris Sharp, if you're going down the journalism angle.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
I would agree with that. You know, maybe there are others that you could have put on there.
Yeah.
Could you have put Richard Dolan? Could you have put maybe Grant Cameron or somebody along those lines? But that's obviously getting a little bit too into the woo aspect of what they're trying to deny, because that would go against the threat narrative that they are trying to proceed here to get funding and budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find it a little bit interesting on what's going on. Nonetheless, we will be covering this extensively with Science Bob. You're going to be Sneaky All Show for that day as well in just a couple days' time. This is Spaced Out Radio. The UFO Report continues right after.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Hey.
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 All right. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I might have to be sick for work on Wednesday. Have to stay home and
considering the dates, if I'm sick, I'm not going to be watching UFOs. I'm going to be out in the forest. Don't speak at once, guys. Okay, yeah, because it bleeds over.
Who's what?
On the StreamYard system, it bleeds over onto YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So you and I, yeah.
Levels go all wonky and stuff. Sorry.
Lunico, every now and again I will bring a listener onto the show as a guest. Speaking of listeners, I was going to stay silent on this.
Uh-oh.
I'm formulating my words. I got one of the most nastiest messages from one of our regular listeners.
Oh.
Just the other day. Who is obviously, by the note, triggered by the election results.
Oh, okay.
And somehow that results in a song that we play on this show that I'm not going to say which show or which song or whatever that uses a certain word on it. And this triggered this listener basically saying that because we're playing a song that uses that word, we must be politically affiliated with anti freedom of speech, that we are politically motivated or things like that. My opinion on this, I was going to write the person back, but sometimes it's just best not to.
Sure.
I'm not writing it back. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm going to say this. If you have to go that far to create controversy and tension, maybe this isn't the show for you. And this is somebody that I totally respect or respected. They are somebody who is in the chat room, but doesn't communicate a lot.
Okay.
And I know a little, I've talked with this person a number of times on email and Facebook and everything.
Sure.
There are times as a show host where it's best to say nothing. Because when you say something or you respond, it opens up the world to a bunch of drama.
Yep.
I'm not doing the drama thing. No, the music is not going to be changed because your perversion of the wording triggers you because you hate the president-elect. People, I'm Canadian. I have no say in what happens. But I'm not changing the music of this show because of triggering, okay? Or Trump derangement syndrome or whatever adjective you want to use regarding it. I don't care. Remember I said a couple of weeks ago, there's 0 F's to give anymore. And I could have let that, if I went back 6, 7, 8 weeks, you helped me through that time, okay, where that would have completely sent me into a spiral.
Yeah.
Now, don't care. That is your issue. So if you're listening, that is your issue. That is not Spaced Out Radio's issue, which is a safe place for people not to talk politics unless it's Justin Trudeau. Okay. Which has always been the rule. All right. This is a safe place to get away from that daily bullshit. And if you're going to be triggered because a song uses a word you don't like that makes you triggered, then you need to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you are a professional. You should know this. A word cannot change an election. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you miss most of this show or others, our archives are always free. Tim, why are they always free?
Because that's the way you like it, Dave.
That's the way I like it. And by gosh, we're going to keep those archives free. Doesn't matter whether you're watching on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tim James, a UFO report continues on. Tim, we were just talking about the hearings in just a couple of days' time.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do you have for us?
Well, nothing to do with the hearings. We'll be watching that. And like Dave said, we'll be doing a bit of a roundtable and see if we're going to get a group discussion going on Wednesday to see what came out of it and what didn't. But just was perusing like I do and found an article, CIA and the Department of Defense apparently engaged in decade-long retrieval, tracking, and exploration of UFOs, including the Italian Magenta craft, sources reveal. So, the sources who spoke under strict conditions of anonymity describe a shadowy history of missions dedicated to recovering exotic materials of non-human origin under the utmost secrecy. The revelations are expected to add weight to an already intense debate over U.S. government transparency regarding UAP, as officials and the public grapple with the implications of alleged long-standing retrieval missions. Liberation Times spoke with sources who stated that retrieval missions involving materials of non-human origin are hidden within legitimate retrieval programs. Among those allegedly involved are the maritime branch of the CIA's Directorate of Operations, the U.S. Navy, the National Underwater Reconnaissance Office, jointly operated by Navy and CIA, and the United States Special Operation Command. It is further understood that the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution has provided deep submergence vehicles to support these retrieval efforts. Once recovered from undersea, these craft are allegedly transferred to the Office of Naval Research. From there, they are handed over to defense contractors for detailed analysis. An intelligence community source informed Liberation Times that the UAP missions on foreign soil have not typically involved the CIA's Office of Global Access, as these operations generally fall outside of its primary scope. However, the source does explain that joint efforts between the U.S. and the allied governments have sometimes led to collaborative recoveries, such as the reported incident at Varginha, Brazil. This case, often dubbed Brazil's Roswell, revolves around reports of UAP debris, along with multiple accounts of sightings of non-human entities in '96. Eyewitnesses described both local authorities and what appeared to be U.S. personnel on site, securing materials and conducting operations. This event has since sparked widespread speculation about international collaboration in UAP retrieval missions. Another source revealed that following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the U.S. and Russia cooperated on at least one undersea mission to retrieve a craft of alleged non-human origin that had crashed in Russian water. Source also says about the process of transferring materials to the defense contractors. Quote, In terms of material recovered, I know of one occasion whereby a designated individual within the CIA's Directorate of Operations collaborated with other agencies to decide which contractor to engage for analysis and exploration. Such decisions depends on the circumstance. For instance, if the object is submerged and capable of undersea propulsion, it would be prudent to perhaps involve general dynamics. However, if it crashes into the sea from beyond Earth's orbit, other contractors would be considered.
Well, I use this one with Walter M. Sterling.
Yes.
As well. And once again, it's showing the diversity of how this subject is broken up into different factions, and nobody knows what they're doing. See, this is the beautiful part of what they do. This is how they keep the secret. Chris Sharp did a great job. He's a great friend of this show. Chris Sharp did a fantastic job in breaking this story down, because we're always wondering, well, why doesn't this the Defense Department come out with all of this? Because the juicy stuff is in private hands.
Right.
And private companies do not have to disclose anything under a Freedom of Information Act request. So when you hear of Boeing, when you hear of Lockheed Martin, when you hear of Raytheon or British Aerospace or whoever, they're laughing. Okay. So when you get like the Department of Energy, well, they would have to disclose, but the other companies don't have to disclose what they have, what they don't have, what kind of technology they're hiding or working on, which kind of ties us into what MUFON Canada was working on, because obviously this is something that these companies have been working on for a long time. And finally, citizens finally picked it up, even though those citizens may be scientific.
That's right.
So I like the way he broke it down, because it's very easy for people to now look at that article and see how compartmentalized this subject is. Because Tim, if you have Tim Aeronautics and I have Dave's Defense Contracting, we're not sharing secrets. We're not swapping notes. You're doing what you have to do, and you have all your employees, which are probably minimal, under an NDA, and same with me. I'll have minimal employees that actually have security clearance to work on my side as well. We're not sharing notes.
No.
We're not doing that. That's part of the government contract. And it breaks down beautifully of what is really happening. So good on Chris Sharp for bringing that out. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that we've been able to shed some light to our audience on that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And to me too. I mean, I am still the new guy, and I'm sure that a lot of people get the brain scramble going on what and who's telling what, and the stories change. But this article was actually quite, like, I guess, steal your word, compartmentalizing. It made sense. It's like, it was one of my aha moments. It was like, okay, this now I get it. Now the pieces are starting to fall into place in certain areas. So yeah, very, very good article. It was super cool. And yeah, it was good that we talked about it earlier too. So yeah, very interesting.
Well, it's eye-opening.
It is.
Because everybody has a little piece. Nobody, as far as we know, has the mothership or the spacecraft, the flying saucer, the sport model of Bob Lazar's.
Right.
We don't know where they are. They're not going to tell us where they are.
No.
And the more juicier the stuff, the more that is going to be under private contracting. The United States government isn't going to have a hangar sitting at, I don't know, pick an Air Force base or a naval base, just sitting there in some hangar saying, hey, would a bunch of scientists in white coats like to come on in here and show us what this is? Show us how to get in.
Yeah.
Because the rumor is a lot of these craft, they can't even get in.
No.
They're still trying to figure that out after 30, 40, 50 years plus.
And your officials get their plausible deniability now, right? I don't know what's going on in there. So, yeah. Perfect.
Well, I just think it's a great confirmation article of what we've been saying on this show for a long time.
Right.
This is so compartmentalized that not even the people working on it know probably what they're working on. I'm sure some of them do, but we're not going to get answers.
No.
This is another door closed in one of those, this is really going on moments. And once again, that's from the Liberation Times, Chris Sharp.
You bet.
LiberationTimes.com is the website.
Definitely.
What else you got?
All right. And here we go. It is This Week in UFO History.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this happened in 1987, this week, November. So for those of you who have not heard of it, it was called the Gulf Breeze Incident down in Florida. So an abbreviated version, I will give you the Coles notes on what happened here. And so Edward Walters, president of a construction company in Gulf Breeze, Florida, has his first alleged encounter with a UFO. He sees a glowing top-shaped craft with a row of portholes across the midsection and a luminous ring on the bottom. He rushes in and grabs a Polaroid camera and snaps a photo just as the UFO is moving from behind a tree. He takes 3 more photos as the object, 150 feet away, drifts in a northeasterly direction. As he is taking more photos, the object moves above him, and Walters is hit by a blue beam that paralyzes him and lifts him several feet off of the ground. After hearing a computer-like voice and a female voice, he sees images of dogs. Then he falls hard onto the pavement, and the UFO is gone. Over the next few months, Walters, initially concealing his identity as Mr. X, and his family claim a bewildering variety of close encounters, including abduction incidents, and Walters continues to produce more photos of the UFOs plaguing him and his family. The veracity of his claims causes a rift in ufology, with MUFON championing the case and CUFOS very skeptical. California ufologist and songwriter Zan Overall produces evidence that Walters knew how to double expose photos well before his UFO pictures. In June 1990, a model UFO, seemingly a prototype for a fake UFO in his photos, is found in the wall of the house formerly occupied by Walters. 1 week later, Tom Smith Jr., 22, comes forward claiming he has seen Walters fake some of these photos. Photo analysis Bruce Maccabee continued to support Walters' claim, co-authoring the book with him in 1997's UFOs Are Real. Here's the proof.
Dun, dun, dun.
Boom, boom, boom.
You know what? Another guy getting hit by a beam, which happened to Travis Walton.
Yeah.
Calvin Parker talked about a little bit of a beam.
Uh-huh.
Stefan Mikulik didn't get hit by a beam, but he got hit by the radiation of the craft taking off.
Yeah.
As he got thrown away. This is great physical evidence.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, super cool. And if anybody hasn't read the story on that incident, it's quite in depth. I mean, you can probably get it on a Wikipedia page too, which breaks it all down. But yeah, it's an interesting story, and it reminded me of Walton when you said that. It was like when I was reading it, I was like, this is almost like Travis Walton. It's that beam thing again, right? But I like it gets lifted up in his driveway and then thrown back down. Rejected. Boosh.
It's always just rejected. You know what other anniversary is this weekend?
What is it this weekend?
Or not this weekend, later this week.
What is it?
The 20th anniversary of the USS Nimitz incident.
Holy, yeah, that's okay.
20th anniversary. And you know what's really cool is earlier on tonight, one of the people from the USS Princeton, Gary Voorhees, was in our chat room.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So we're going to have to do something about that and kind of go from there and make mention of it. But I mean, there's another incident that is going to go down in UFO lore.
Yeah.
Was it human technology? Was it something else?
Well, according to Sean Kirkpatrick, the technology was so poor 20 years ago that it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, don't worry.
Yeah.
They don't exist, but
Yeah.
we're going to start a UFO crash retrieval program, and who wants to join? Who wants to be a part of my group? I don't believe in any of this stuff.
No.
But hey, you'll get paid.
That's right. And
Right.
I've never been at any of these meetings. Photos of them. Oh, yep.
Oh, Sean Kirkpatrick. How we love thee.
Yeah, different cat. That's for sure. Interesting.
Well, I mean, with the USS Nimitz incident,
Mhm.
this is where we got the Tic Tac videos, and I would love to see more of those.
Mhm.
I really would. I have one insider who believes that they are ours.
Okay.
Okay. I have one insider who believes that we don't know what they are.
Yeah.
It's still a mystery. What we do know is that, you look at somebody like radar operator Kevin Day, who's
Mhm.
been a guest on this show. He's a good friend. And to this day, he still has trauma from that incident.
Oh, right.
Yes. And so for Kevin's story, for people who may not know, he was the radar operator. He was the one responsible for flying or getting the FA-18s to go check out these whatever objects were. And that's where Commander David Fravor came in, and pilot Alex Dietrich came in with their FA-18s and flew in, and they had those close encounters with the Tic Tacs. And Kevin was the one who told me that they timed one of them going from 80,000 feet down to 10 feet above sea level in 0.78 of a second.
Oh,
that would rip the human body apart.
Yeah. No
rip
question.
the human body apart. And with Kevin, after this incident, many people started bugging him and bullying him over this. Oh, you're the UFO guy. You're the guy who called in jet fighters for a bunch of seagulls and all sorts of bullying. And Kevin had a pretty traumatic naval career too. I believe he was involved in an incident somewhere in the Middle East where I believe F-14s took down an airliner accidentally.
Yep.
And I believe Kevin was the radar operator on that ship at that time, or one of them. This happened early in his career. But imagine giving your life and dedicating yourself to a military service only to be blackballed because of a UFO.
Yeah, no doubt. And I remember the interview. I think it was with you, and I remember watching that show. And yeah, poor guy, really, he loved it. And from what I gleaned from him, he loved it. He loved being in the military. That was his thing,
The
right?
Navy was his thing.
Yeah, and he seemed to be destroyed over it, and I felt bad for him. It was, yeah.
It's to the point where he was having seizures. And I remember one time when I interviewed him a couple of years ago before he got those under control, he actually had a mini seizure while on air with us.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
But 20 years, and you look at the people that have come out about that incident. Other UFO incidents, we may have had one person come out. We haven't had as many come out about other incidents as we have about 2004. And you think that would open up to a couple of things. Why aren't more people braver to come out? Or because of that event and the publicity that it got, it makes me also wonder whether or not they were not told, but maybe had the security levels changed on that so they couldn't say anything outside of their NDA.
Very good possibility. There's a plethora of reasons.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I'm actually looking forward to that too. I didn't realize it was the 20th anniversary, so that'll be a good chit chat as well. But yeah, I don't know. And we discussed that before too. And I think you had asked me if I, were the Tic Tacs ours or something extraterrestrial. And I remember relating it. If you float around in the Seattle harbor and they've got the naval yards down there, they've got those big radar ports that look like gigantic Tic Tacs on the back of the boats, right? So yeah, it could be possible, but yeah, kind of hard to deny a crowd of officials that see something like that and go, yeah, it was nothing.
It's still an incredible piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
How real it is, well, we could only go by the words of the people who saw it.
Sure.
Whether it was Gary Voorhees, whether it was Sean Cahill, whether it was Kevin Day, David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, many others. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, what's playing out on it, because 20 years later, realistically, this is one of the best.
Yeah.
And there's video footage. I just wish the Navy would grant the public access to the longer video. There's allegedly a 21-minute video on this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
What else did they capture? What is so scary on that video that they cannot release it to the public? Are they more worried about the public, or are they worried about the enemies of the state that might take advantage of that? Because Lou Elizondo always stated that video, they're trying to get that video out.
Yeah.
And then everybody went silent on it. So anyways, another great show tonight. You learned about the Mandela Effect. You brought some good UFO news. Tim James, thank you for another great report, my man.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good night when you get to talk the Mandela Effect. And thank you to Sandy and Jeff for doing so. As we say hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball, rocking in the background with Little Brothers watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elgap, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, I watched the video for that song the other day.
Little Brothers watching?
That is
good video.
It's so wild. I was like, oh.
Tells a story.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting on his throne.
Uh-huh. Give me 2 seconds here. God, I hate this mouse right now. Maybe I just need a new one. Maybe this one's worn out.
It's just one of those electric. It's not the old ball style one.
No.
It's just a light.
No, but it's like it keeps stopping. You know? I'm wondering if I've worn out the clear coat on my desk from it, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyways, as for what I said during the last break, where is it here? I'm going to read you the last little bit here. And I'm going to keep the rest. And once again, I'm going to keep the person's name redacted. All right. It says, while you say your network does not deal with politics, these music lyrics say the exact opposite and place your network on the side of hate, injustice, and loss of freedom of speech. As such, I will not be listening to this anti-democracy, pro-hate show.
Whoa. Damn. We would have got away with it too if it wasn't for your kids and that darn dog.
Where the hell did that come from?
Scooby-Doo.
Well, I know that, but
I don't know. It was like,
yeah.
It's such a ridiculous.
So apparently somebody else's song, which was written way long ago prior to this election ever being a forethought, is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
People, you can't make this stuff up. This is the type of stuff that I have to deal with as a show host. The majority of it you will never hear from. Okay? But I'm just giving you a little insight into my world of the lack of a better term, bullshit that I sometimes have to deal with as a show host and as someone who is having to, how do you put it? Right? Now, I'm not going to say who it was or anything, because if they ever come back, I don't need an apology or anything like that. If I see them in the chat room again, I'll be like, hey, how you doing? Right? Because that's the kind of guy I am. But to try and get me to change music because you're triggered by one word in a song, and you're then saying in your note that we are a threat against free speech, you just asked me to pretty much indirectly ask me to remove a song because of a word that triggered you. That is taking away from free speech.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Heaven forbid that the word wasn't like revolution or fight
or pointy sticks.
So
yeah, that's too bad.
No, Tim. They weren't in Reno.
We're playing 20 questions, right?
No, I'm not going to give up the person's name or anything like that. I'm going to play this fair. All right. But I don't do, as I've said to all of you, I don't do woke.
Mm-mm.
I don't do politics. I don't do anything to do with identity because I don't care. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what your belief system is. I do care if you squatch. I do care if you're a paranormal person and you're saying you're conducting scientific investigation. I do care when your birthday is, and if you have a birthday and you mention it in the chat room, because you're goddamn, you're going to get sung happy birthday.
Nice.
Okay? That's what I care about. I don't care about this meaningless crap that I'm now not going to like you because you put ketchup on your steak dinner.
Okay, that's just wrong, but okay.
Well, it is wrong to put ketchup on a steak. Okay? But there are people who do that.
Yes.
Am I now supposed to say, I can't go out for dinner with you because you put ketchup on your steak and it triggers me?
Sorry. Oh my gosh.
But that's the scenario we're dealing with.
I know. It just, I'm sorry. That's just me. I'm not judging. It's just like, what?
Bombshell Bomber, of course I would sing happy birthday to you. You always think that I think the worst of you, Bomber. So, yeah.
Deb, I love ketchup on steak. Deb, you're just wrong. There's another way around it. You're just wrong.
So that's a little insight of what we deal with behind the scenes. Never mind the trolls that come into the chat room. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Simon and Cake are having a duel here on Super Chats right now.
Oh, stop. Please quit doing that.
I'm going to give you half an hour to stop this because I'm going off the air in half an hour.
Yeah.
I blame Dave for everything. And you too, Tim. You too.
Dog face.
No, but seriously, like the one thing that I have built up and I think we've been relatively successful on is building our chat room. Hi, Submaster76. Welcome to SOR chat. We've been relatively successful in creating an atmosphere where everybody is welcome here.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody is welcome. And like I said, the one thing we all are welcome for is this. Number one, we love these topics.
Yeah.
We love them. Number one. And number two, everybody, including myself, yourself, Tim, and everybody in this chat room or who listen to this after, from the time they wake up in the morning to the time they go to bed, they are hammered with politics, work politics, television politics, political politics, driving politics. If you're somebody who has to drive in rush hour traffic on a daily
100%.
basis and sit 2-3 hours in traffic just to get home or to work, okay, you're hammered by it. By the time you get home and you crawl into bed, okay, and I had a YouTube expert look at my channel, and he was blown away that the average listener to our show listens 48 minutes.
What?
That's great time.
Really?
48 minutes. I can show you.
I believe you.
Okay. And he was blown away by that because the average YouTube time is usually around, I think, 7 to 11 minutes.
Wow.
On a long form video. And we get 48. Now, I could be wrong on that on that part of the statistic. I'm going by what I was told.
Sure.
Okay. So don't quote me on that because I'm using someone else's information. Okay. But the fact that we get 48 minutes of people using us and you know what? One of the biggest compliments one of our listeners could give me is I fall asleep to you every night, Dave.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would look at that and say, well, that's kind of insulting.
No.
Not me, man. Not me. I look at that as like I did my job. I was able to calm their brain down.
Yeah.
With fun, good stories and information that they were able to relax and get to sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
And trust me, I can see in the chat room, people, everybody, oh, hey, Dave, right at the beginning. Hey, Dave, hey, Dave, hey, Dave, hey, Dave. And then all of a sudden they're making a ton of comments and then it just dies off. And usually by the end of hour one or midway through hour two, you can see them because I can see the numbers in the chat room. The numbers in the chat room the numbers overall don't go down.
No.
They stay the same. So what's happened is they have fallen asleep while listening to it. And that, to me, is a great compliment. Son of a gun. I screwed that up. So when somebody says to me, I fall asleep to you at night, it's not an insult.
No.
Okay? It really is not.
Everybody's hey Dave and you. Hey Dave.
Yeah. So the point that I'm getting at is, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record here. I'm just getting it off my chest.
Good.
Is I don't care who you voted for.
No.
I really don't care. I can tell you right now, my business partner in SOR, him and I are worlds apart when it comes to who we support politically.
Mm-hmm.
Worlds apart. But you know what we have in common? These subjects.
Right.
And that lack of I'm saying a pun here, trumps everything.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And guess what? As a Canadian show, means nothing in the United States.
No.
Politically.
That's right.
Okay. And not once did I tell people, go vote for Kamala or go vote for Donald.
Nope.
Or go vote for the Easter Bunny.
No, exactly.
Didn't say anything. So, anyways, just the way it is.
No, for sure.
Yep. I'm catching up on the chat room now.
Are you?
Bomber, I don't even know when your birthday is. You let me know in the chat room the night of your birthday, and I will sing happy birthday to you. If you don't tell me, I won't know. Ranch on chicken wings, depending on the heat of the chicken wing in the studio. Depends on the heat of the chicken wings. So if you're like into hot sauce that is brutally hot, you need a little bit of ranch to help out. And the ranch isn't to cool it down; it's to slide the meat down. Okay,
don't do it.
Literally, not even BSing you here.
Really?
Remember when before at the hangar there they had there was that restaurant that had the wings challenge there.
Mm-hmm.
I owned that.
Did you?
I did 21 of their hottest wings.
Nope.
And they're like, "Oh, good job, good job." I said, "Put my name up." I think I think I beat the last person.
Yeah.
By 12 or 13 wings.
Holy crap.
Oh, dude, I was a machine that night. But I figured it out. Figured out what you need to do in order to get there. You need warm-up wings. You do.
Okay.
So you start off with like the Frank's Red hot sauce.
Yeah.
You know?
How about that on everything?
Yeah. You start off with the Frank's. You get your mouth to warm up, your throat to warm up.
Right.
And then you go a little bit spicier.
Okay.
And then you go for the heat, man.
And just give her.
And then you just give her and you're fine. You're fine after that. Yeah.
No. Remember the wife and I went down, we were at a place in White Rock and went for wings. And she had to sign a waiver because she picked the hottest wings on the whole menu.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, no, we can't
serve that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm watching her, and she's going, "These are great," and the sweat's just pouring off her forehead, and so I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I am so good with just having these."
The first time I went hard in Pennsylvania, they have these really cool restaurants. You remember the oil company Quaker Steak?
Oh yeah,
Quaker Steak.
Yeah.
Well, there they have a bunch of restaurants called Quaker Steak and Lube.
Ooh.
Okay.
And
so you go in there and they have a wings challenge. Well, I was there with 15 other dudes. And I figure, you know what? I like I liked hot wings at that point, but I didn't know what really grotesque hot wings were.
Yeah, no.
And I failed on the year prior.
Uh-huh.
So we went in there and I did 6 of them to get my name on the wall. And my friend Andrew out of Toronto, this guy was Homer Simpson with the wax down his throat.
Oh, geez.
He is like licking his fingers afterwards.
Rubbing his eyes.
Yeah. And I'm looking at him, and about half an hour, 40 minutes later, we're all getting ready to leave. And I'm like, I got to visit the bathroom. And without getting into too grotesque a story there, let's just say that it was sit down, stand up, puke, sit back down, stand back up, puke.
Oh.
Yeah, like I needed a second toilet there.
Oh.
I did. Yeah. As gross as that sounds, but I'm going to admit it because I'm a hot wings guy.
And a great time was had by all.
Oh, dude, I was feeling so gross after
No
that.
way, man.
Yeah, I was feeling so gross after that. But I was like, I'll do it again. I totally do it again.
Suck up for punishment.
Because now I know how.
Yeah.
Now I know how. You got to warm yourself up to it.
No, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I like the buffalo wings and like, you know.
I think the only thing I won't do again, sorry to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead.
I don't think I'll ever do the one chip challenge again.
Never done it. Don't want to do it.
That was probably the most painful thing I have ever done.
I watched it on YouTube, but I watched some people do it, and it does not look pleasant.
I will tell you this. I was wearing earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
I had to rip the earbuds out of my head because they were hurting. I went numb because you have to wait before you take a drink 5 minutes.
Oh,
minimum. So that was the slowest 5 minutes of my life.
I'll bet.
I went numb from about halfway up my head all the way down my shoulders were numb. And if you know anything about the heat, it never stops getting hotter.
Oh, gee, sign me up.
Right? So the chip I actually ate, and I still have the box in here somewhere.
Oh, God. So I got residue.
It does have residue in it. It totally does. Hold on. Where is that box?
I don't know. What you doing?
It is in here somewhere.
It
Might be on one of your shelves up there.
Oh, what? Yeah, when we
Looks like a little coffin.
That's right. Where did we see that?
It's here somewhere. Anyways.
Yes.
Anyways, with that, there is residue in there, just so you know. There is residue. But that was, I realized right before I ate it that it was expired.
Okay.
Yeah. So here you have one chip in a hermetically sealed package. And you know it's not going to go bad because the heat will burn anything.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only been sitting in that package. I think it was 1.4 million or 1.5 million Scoville units.
What?
And then the new chips now are like 1.9 million.
No, thank you.
Right? That's freaking hot.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Bumblefoot has a 6 million Scoville unit hot sauce.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Bumblefucked.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Looks cool. Looks like the rat.
Scott B, how you doing?
Oh, man.
Looks like Ren having his eyes popped out.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. And some people say that when they do that, or there's a thing on TV, they do a hot wing challenge too. And who's that guy that used to do the Adam? He was on TV.
Yeah.
He used to just do.
He had to quit that job because he got too fat.
Yeah,
he was literally eating himself to death.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love that show.
Me too. But when he had brought it up in an interview that he was saying that with hot wings, depending on what spice it is, that it gets so hot that you actually get high, like your body releases all this crap in your brain. I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like fun, man. I just don't get it.
Yes.
I like food too much.
I like capsaicin, though.
Yeah.
AKA capsicum, what other people call it. Either way. Keeps you healthy.
Yeah, it does.
Keeps your lungs clean.
And your circulation good.
Yep.
Up here. I take capsaicin pills in the winter because my circulation of my fingers gets so bad.
That's because you nose pick too much.
Well, God, tell everybody.
God.
Am I still bleeding?
Yep.
Yeah, Billy Herb. What's that? 18th of November. You guys are all youngins.
Well, all I can say is this.
Yes.
Getting back to the original topic there.
Yeah.
We took that down a road.
Left, right.
Just come in here to have fun. I know 99.9% of you understand that out there. Okay, but just come in to have fun. All right, we're not changing our music. We're not changing our ideologies of what this show is or who's allowed to be here and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
The chat room is real simple. Don't be an asshole.
Exactly.
Okay, and if you can't help yourself, we're probably not the chat room for you.
Yeah.
If you're going to get triggered, we're probably not the chat room for you. If you're going to be a jerk, we're probably not the chat room for you. If you want to have fun, we're the chat room for you.
Hell yeah.
If you're going to enjoy the woo and not take this, very seriously and just enjoy the stories and maybe they coincide with your own or whatever.
Sure.
That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just enjoy it.
No kidding.
Right? And don't vote Trudeau. But that's
yeah.
That's only if you're in Canada.
That's right.
Subliminal
messages.
Well,
Yeah.
apparently, like it's my fault.
Well, smart enough, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Right?
No. Uh-oh.
Oh, it just amazes me.
Yeah. It is what it is. And like you say, you're not going to reveal who it is, which is cool. And just, yeah. I think we all have bad days every once in a while, and we say things and do things that we probably go, oh. So might have been one of those. So,
well, you know what? Like I said, if the person comes back,
yeah,
everybody is welcome back with open arms.
Of course.
They're not banned by the chat room. They're not banned.
No.
Okay. I banned other people for more.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
Who you voted for.
Nope.
Makes no difference to me. Where is that box?
I don't know.
I think if you stand up, you might be able to. Don't forget to shake your ass in the camera after you do that.
No, nobody wants to see that.
Oh, there's some crack.
That's where you're hiding it.
Uh-huh.
No, I remember seeing it. I just
It's here somewhere.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
No.
Not a big deal. Who's on the show tomorrow night? Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to talk UFOs. Ron Janix from Contact to the Desert is going to be here. We're going to have a great show with Ron. Very much looking forward to it. Hope you are all looking forward to it too. And we actually got a great couple weeks here set up. Dirty Filth did a great job this week. And next. Or maybe the following week. Hard to believe we're already starting to book into December.
That's awesome.
I know. I know. By the way, one other final thing before we get going here. If you get a chance to see Darcy Weir's new 3-part series on Corey Good and David Wilcock, it's pretty good. It is really good on bringing out a lot of the, lack of a better term, shenanigans.
Shenanigans?
I don't get to use the word shenanigans enough on this show, so I'm going to use shenanigans in that. You can watch it for free on Amazon or Tubi. So make sure you go check it on out. And JSCO, UFOs tomorrow. Yes. All right, everybody. We're going to say goodnight here. And thank you for being alive, people. Thank you for being alive. And another one?
I
Really?
know. They don't want you to leave.
Holy cow. Hold on. I gotta honestly add this up. This is one of these weird nights that never happens.
Yeah, it was just
And
ring that
1,
bell.
2.
What the hell?
Okay, we're gonna do the totals here. Thank you, Richard times 6.
Holy, Mr. Minnick.
Okay. Deboruni. Deb times 5.
Holy.
T-Bone.
17.
T-Bone with a hat trick. Kira Sag, who is new to the channel tonight.
Mhm.
Times 4. Paramarv. Search and Destroy times 2.
Oh, man.
Gary. And then the Aussies battled. Start off with Cake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Simon said, screw that. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So thank you for the amazing love tonight. I'm not sure that I deserve that, but I really do appreciate the amazing love and support shown by all of you tonight. Thank you very much. We'll see you all tomorrow with Ron Jennings, Captain Ron as our guest, okay? We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Much love. Good night, Timmy.
Good night, Dave. Good night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.